We have audio. I was just muted.
And Dada was ignoring the chat room.
That's the thing Dada does.
I'm just not talking.
So, here's the deal. I don't know what camera we're on. We're on this one. Hi, Internet. Our guest today has not responded to the emails we send out and is not on Skype. So, we may be doing another roundtable. And I'm thinking, well, by the way, I'm in pink. I'm thinking we might do it on Asgardia, although I need the rest of my hosts here. So, roundtable backup. I was thinking Asgardia, but I don't know if we can speak intelligently to Asgardia.
Does it really matter?
I haven't done any research whatsoever.
I enjoyed it, but
I got the link.
when I read the Constitution, and I was like, it's pretty good.
Well, that's just it, though. The Constitution doesn't suck, right? It's an interesting idea, which I was wondering. Hey, Space Mike. We may or may not have. He may not be able to hear us. Oh, can you unmute?
The cat's done it again.
Jared's unmuted. Mike is unmuted.
Okay.
I'm not plugged in.
Yeah, Lars, the beard is starting to look better. Yeah, it only took me, what, like 2 months?
At least you
Starting to
can
get
grow
there.
one.
No, I can't. That's the whole
I
point.
can't either.
Carrie Ann, I can't either. Oh, did we get a name, Mike? Mike, I have to. Oh my God, that's adorable.
Oh my gosh.
His mic is muted on his end.
Ah ha ha. That's adorable.
It almost makes me want to have a cat.
Yeah, but that's like 5 seconds in its life, then you gotta put up the rest of the life.
I like cats.
Cats are not bad.
Yeah, cats are great because they can figure out where to poop all on their own. Well, dogs can't. They're like, I don't know what to do. Take me outside.
That's why you teach the dog where to poop.
That doesn't keep them from pooping in your bed when they get pissed off at you or something.
That's true. That.
Who wants a cat?
Yeah, don't piss off your
Yeah, or throwing up in your shoes.
Everybody knows that.
Tinkers likes to
It's a
poop in
man's act.
the kitchen when he's mad at us.
Tinkers? Is that what we've named
No,
Tinkers?
Tankers.
No, that's
Tankers
the pug.
is
That's
Oh,
the pug.
it's the pug.
It's Tank.
Pay
Tanker,
attention.
yeah.
Pay attention.
Oh,
God.
I'm sorry. I like.
So, Space
I'm
Mike.
hearing this ear, and I only have like.
Kill him. Thank you. So, Space Mike, here's the deal. Our guest is not answering our hails. So, we may need to do another roundtable. I was thinking of doing it on Asgardia, but I'm not convinced we can speak intelligently to that for 13 plus minutes. You?
Yeah. I don't know. I can talk definitely about the concepts, but again, I haven't read their Constitution fully, so I don't know exactly how they're setting it up.
So Jared and I have
My
both read
biggest-
the Constitution, but you know, there's a lot. It's a lot of stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of detail there. Open to other ideas. So you two, open to ideas for, and by the way, chat room as well. Open to ideas for roundtable discussion as a backup here.
You want to talk about the eclipse?
We can talk. Can we talk about the eclipse for 13 minutes? I can talk about it for 2.
Jared can, but
I
doesn't
can
know
talk
much of a
about
round
it.
table.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say probably not on the eclipse. I think we're also far enough away where. Other ideas? We did SLS. Cats and dogs in space. Huh. Green Gym, space planes.
I could talk at length in regards to what's going on with the Russian industry, especially in regards to Soyuz rocket.
It's funny. So Liquid Hype on Twitch said you promised us an episode all about Buran a year ago, but I mean, an episode or a space pod?
I think that was in reference to a space pod, or maybe that was even something.
I don't know
for
that we
my
can
own show.
round table Buran. That doesn't seem round tableable. That seems more like a factoid. Like here's a bunch of stuff that happened.
History lesson.
We
Yeah,
could
it's a
maybe
history
round
lesson.
table the consequences of Buran, but not Buran itself. But I don't know. That's just an idea.
New reply wants space planes. Lunar station and humans return to the moon.
Sure.
We could do about we could talk about your
space.
favorite. What's your favorite upcoming space thing in general? Like concept. Like is it space launch system doing asteroid or whatever they're doing now? Europa Clipper, stuff like that. For future reference, don't wear white on the show.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh. Yes.
It's all good.
Forgot about that.
You can wear gray. You can wear tight patterns, just not white.
What if we had a round table on kind of the unexpected results of the suborbital tourism race that's been going on over the past decade? I mean, we have X-Core Aerospace now defunct, essentially. Virgin Galactic still 6 months away, but just did a successful test flight, so that's worth mentioning. And Blue Origin kind of seems like the slow and steady turtle that's going to win the race here.
I'm kind of enjoying this. You guys?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, you want to do a roundtable on suborbital?
Mm-hmm.
Internet, what do you think?
The expectations we had 10 years ago definitely did not pan out.
Yeah, still have not. Mind you,
still haven't
they're still
panned out.
consistently 6 months out. So I like the suborbital roundtable sounds interesting to me. Brow says I'm down. Fit Orion says tech that needs to be developed for Mars mission and status of those efforts, radiation protection, EDL, what else? So roundtable on Mars tech. That's an interesting idea. So I think I prefer the suborbital roundtable idea. You guys?
Yeah, I'm for it.
Suborbital is more preferred. Dutta, you?
Not just suborbital, but the industries that
Have fallen.
that stem from that. So, like, Virgin Galactic was created from as a direct result of Spaceship One's flight, but
Right.
Virgin Galactic is now wanting to enter into small/medium launcher in Virgin orbit.
Looks
So
like is going to happen
so now
before Spaceship too.
So now they've got a big ass legit 747 that they're going to put a rocket underneath and launch satellites that way. That's a whole industry.
You have to build the machine that build the tools that build.
And I guess maybe that's kind of what I
Is what he's going.
one of the things, yeah, that we can bring up is how things kind of went in a different direction than we
Where we thought
the-
they would
the
start
markets
and
that
where
have
they,
come.
where we thought they would go.
The suborbital edition.
The suborbital. Yeah, I'm cool with suborbital. Mike, we might have to lean on you. Mike mostly. We're gonna have to lean on you a lot for this one. I think this is your.
I can talk about some of the science that you can do suborbital that you
That
can
helps.
that you'd rather do suborbital than orbital.
That helps. That helps, right? I think
Yeah.
we'll just make it a very broad suborbital. Mike, I like your idea of like Mike and Dutta. I think we're combining ideas here of like where we thought we were going to be and where we're at today. Kind of like like we thought this is what's going to happen, and then we offshoot into Virgin orbit and things like that. And some of the promises that like X-Core falling by the wayside, and there's another one. Armadillo Aerospace fell away as well, right? But others have held on, right? Mass in Space is still there and doing well. You can talk about why suborbital is important because we put a lot of emphasis on orbital, but we don't always, we kind of suborbital, at least for space nerds, is like, it's not orbital, right? So
who cares?
Blue Origin, like we can talk to
space.
Blue Origin, their suborbital flights, and then talking to Blue Origin, like they came out of nowhere. Yeah, I think we have something here. So while you guys are doing news, I will work on creating a rundown for that. In the meantime, and chat room, you're cool with this change? I mean, not that we have a choice, but you all think this will be an interesting topic? It's gonna be as per anything that's done last minute. It's gonna be interesting to see what we can pull together. You saw that, by the way, Dutta. So we'll do the disclaimer. You come up in the open. Carrie-Ann will introduce the three of them, and then she'll say "coming up," and then you're gonna advance your banner one, if that makes sense. It'll advance to a coming up banner, and then you'll roll the open. Does that make sense? Right, so first thing she'll do is introduce them. How's your week going? Blah, blah, blah. She'll say, on this show, and then that's when you're going to do the Coming Up Orbit 10, Episode 28, blah, blah, blah. And then when you roll the open, it'll automatically pull your banner down for you.
Okay, so does it pull my first banner down?
Well, I mean, when you advance,
I come up from.
You'll come up with, when you run the disclaimer intro, it takes it to black, adds 3 seconds of black for me, rolls the disclaimer, and comes up with the banner.
Yes.
With the name, well, whatever banner selected, comes up with the name banner. Then you manually advance the banner when she says we're doing the show thing.
So I'm just advancing.
Yep, you're just advancing.
Fade out and fade back.
Nope, you just advance, let it hard cut on air,
Eat it
coming
with
up, and then
earphone
Then
pops
all
out
you have
of
to do
my
after that
sleeve.
is roll the intro, and the intro will take care of everything else all the way up through Patreon slate. New automation is always fun.
Okay, I've got a
I
slight
showed,
problem here.
I showed time was 60 seconds.
All right, I'm gonna crash record.
the way,
Dada,
did
if
you
you
guys
could
get a
really
chance-
quickly, one more shot of bringing our guest online, and if we don't, if we're not successful here, we will go ahead and move with the backup plan.
This For fuck's sake.
What's going on, Jared? Oh, lost headphones. Okay, I see.
Dead. The other one
I
for
don't
me.
know how you're tickling yourself.
Give me a hand, Carrie Ann.
It's such a ridiculous problem to have that it's so funny.
By the way, did you guys get a chance to play the video for the 6th news story? Make sure it plays in Casper okay?
I don't know. I don't know, Mike.
All right, we'll find out.
All right, roll it open.
Okay.
Mike,
All right.
I'm rolling that video. It's all black.
It's all black.
You see it in DDR?
And it is playing right now.
It's currently playing, yes.
Was there something different with that video, Mike?
Well, what I did is I had mixed in videos and pictures. So it started off with pictures that were played for like 15, 20 seconds. There was 2 pictures at first, and then there was a 20-second video, and then there was a couple of more pictures. And I was just trying to have it as one video that Dutta could just play, and that would be my talking points.
No, that's a good idea. I don't know why it's not playing. What is that, story 6?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead
for
and start the
the
show.
iodine.
Go ahead and start the show. I'll see if I can fix it. I may not be able to, so be prepared.
It's been 8 suborbital flights.
We good to start?
No, give me 1 second. Frankly, this looks correct. I don't see why it's wrong. Show me your what's happening in data or in the thing.
Sorry, everyone.
Roll just the video. Oh, it's playing. Is that the only one doing that, or are they all doing that?
They are all Black Magic.
Doesn't. Oh, you restarted. Mm-hmm. Yep. Sorry, Space Mike. That's on us. Give us a minute.
Oh, okay. Was it going black for,
No,
for
it's
other stuff too?
There's so when you, for reasons I do not understand, the
4, 3,
yeah.
2,
French.
Here.
top.
Decollage?
Audio
Oh.
video.
Right.
And use
Undo level A and then single link. Save that. It should pop. Yeah. Hit yes. I don't know why they default to that, and I don't know why I can't turn that off.
How much time do we have?
You have a moment. What do you need?
To wash the cup?
There we go. Show me Mike's now. There she
Nice.
is. Yep, that
There
works.
we go.
That's such a cool story.
That would have been a disaster.
Yeah, if none of the media played.
Yeah, exactly. All right, once Carrie Ann comes back, let's go ahead and do this thing.
Yeah, your mic's
Right.
kind of cracking in and out. Oh, okay.
Fine.
Carrie Ann, your mic I don't think is on.
Yay, we're talking about.
Try again.
rockets.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not crackly out here, right? It's only when I go into the edit room. Yeah, I'm just out of RF. That's fine. You can mute me again.
Did you pay your RF bill this week?
No, but we finally played our Adobe bill.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I bet you did.
All of the contributors laugh. Recall it.
Adobe's about to expire. in 3
Recalling to
days. Oh my
themselves
God.
when they were editing. Oh yeah, I didn't get that notice again.
It's almost like if that pop-up doesn't come up, like I still like sit there and wait, thinking that it's not finished loading yet. Oh wait, no, it's being normal. Okay, let's begin.
I had like a kilogram of caffeine this morning, so
Great.
I'm like, Hyped up plus
Kilogram.
So excited for that.
Whole kilo, huh?
Everybody ready?
Sure,
Let's do
but this might take a couple.
Okay. Guest.
Hello, I'm Carrie Ann, and apparently my voice is cracking. Oh man, I had a Thursday that was the Thursday of all Thursdays, and those of you who know me know exactly what I mean by that. Oh, but I'm so glad to be here with you and all of these guys. Jared, my lead aerodynamicist, how are you doing? How was your week?
pretty good. I was
Yeah.
just checking out Eclipse stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
So
That's
since
exciting.
I'm going to Oregon to see it.
Really cool.
So it's going to be really fun. And of course, I want to let everybody in Australia, Southeast and West Asia, and a little bit of Africa and a little bit of Europe know that you do have a lunar eclipse happening the night of August 7th into the 8th. So
very
you can see
cool.
it. Us in the Americas, we can't see it. So, but yeah, it's going to be sweet. You can see the moon get dark. So if somebody really makes you mad that day, say, I will block out the moon for your besmirchment. So, or something like that. So.
That would be amazing. All right, good to know. And Mike, checking in with you. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Just working hard, doing lots of research, and had to brush up a little bit on how nuclear fission works this week. But that's all right. Hopefully, it'll pay off a little bit later.
As you do, of of course. Oh man, you guys have no idea what we put into this show. Wow. And Dada, of course, the producer of TMRO.
Hi, Boo.
How was your week?
Good. We did progress thing at work, and I'm super excited because we get to do the thing.
Nice.
Nice.
Amazing.
To do the ITAR redacted.
That's all we want, right? That's all we want in life is just to be able to do the thing. So today's thing, as you maybe are curious about, we're going to go over some complex chemistry, as Mike mentioned. We've got some serious propulsion coming up and a possible exomoon. I'm very excited about that. And of course, as I'm sure you were wondering, we do in fact have launches. Out of this entire orbit so far, out of 28 shows, there's only 5 shows that did not have launches associated with them. So that's pretty impressive. Thankfully, this is not one of those 5. We're not adding to that. We actually happen to have launches. So why don't we get started? Welcome to TMRO, Orbit 10.28.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
Some people in the chat room are mentioning is Ben in chameleon mode. He will be joining us a little bit later. I always seem to forget to mention him. Out of sight, out of mind, I suppose. First of all, of course, I want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. Not out of sight, nor out of mind. Clearly more important to me than Ben Credible. These people are the escape velocity. They have contributed $10 or more to this particular segment, this particular episode. They, of course, get access to our Discord channel and all of Ben Credible's weird and wild thoughts and everyone else, right? And there's also some new rewards. So please head on over to patreon.com/TMRO to feel free to check those out. And, maybe you want to move up a level or so, or just kind of get some new rewards or,
See what's up.
See what's up. Speaking of what's up, Mike, we've got some launches. Man, my voice is cracking.
Yes, we
This
do.
is going to be a great show. Why don't you fill us in on what we missed this week?
All right, so first off, the only orbital launch of this week was an Arianespace launch. So let's go ahead and play the video because I love their graphics right before the launch itself,
Totally.
showing the satellites for it. And this was a Vega launch, the 10th launch of the Vega rocket, which is a mostly solid-fueled rocket. And this launch occurred on August 1st at 1:58 Coordinated Universal Time from the Kourou Space Center in French Guiana. So let's go ahead and check out the launch itself.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage P80, décollage. La propulsion est nominale.
All right, so this is a 4-stage rocket, and it carried 2 satellites into orbit, kind of in the same configuration that they've been using lately on the Ariane 5, where it has a payload fairing within the payload fairing. I really love that. And these satellites, the first one that was deployed on the mission was the OptSat 3000, which is a quote-unquote Earth observation satellite for the Italian Ministry of Defense. So it's pretty much a spy satellite. However, they are going to be sharing all of the imagery that they have with other defense agencies around the world, so that's pretty cool. But it was built by the Israel Aerospace Industries, and that's kind of important because the second satellite that was on the bottom of this was that was called Venus, and it was built for and used by the Israeli Space Agency, and also a little bit by the French Space Agency, CNES. And Venus is another Earth observation satellite, but this time it's actually for science, not for spying reasons. And it's going to be studying vegetation and the environment, and it also is going to be doing an ion thruster test for the Israeli Space Agency. So I'm really happy that this launch was able to occur, and congratulations to everyone involved, for sure.
Yeah, totally. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
As Human in the chat room says, "Décollage!" There's just something about that exclamation that touches a certain point in my heart. All right. And then, so if that was the only orbital launch, but I have got another launch on the docket.
Yeah, there was one more launch that I just wanted to quickly talk about, and this is from Vector Space Systems. This was just another one of their low-altitude flight tests. This isn't even a suborbital test, but this was done in Georgia, and this was awesome. This happened on Thursday, August 4th at 4:25 Coordinated Universal Time. Check out some of these views that they got. They had drones and got some nice footage from this. And this was just another one of the demo versions of the Vector R rocket that only has one rocket on it. And this was the future site of the spaceport Camden in Camden County, Georgia. And this particular footage right here really shows kind of how short this flight really was. Low fuel on it, and, you know, just shut off the engine almost just a few seconds after launch. And again, it was just under 3,000 meters in altitude for that type of experimental flights, and especially considering Vector Space Systems' $21 million that they've raised in capital funding, they're considering accelerating their test program to go to even higher altitudes to eventually get to the suborbital range, and then by next year, they're promising that by this time next year, they will have begun orbital launches with a 2-stage version of this rocket. So I'm excited for that. And one other thing that I did want to mention about this with these one-engine tests is it really makes me wonder if they really are planning a 1.5-stage design like the old Atlas rockets, where the 2 outer engines would drop off somewhere in the middle of flight and continue on just the one engine. They haven't announced any plans like that, but it just makes me wonder why they're doing all these one-engine tests instead of 3 engines. But anyway, I thought it was cool and worth mentioning.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to follow along. If you guys aren't on Twitter, first of all, get on Twitter. And secondly, if you are on Twitter and you're not following Jeff Faust, please go follow Jeff Faust. Really great coverage. Not that other people aren't, but really great coverage. And very, very dry sense of humor. There was a couple of weird tweets, as Marty the Martian in the chat room saying, pigs in space. There was a wayward pig. We thought we might have a parody Twitter account for a little bit there. Really, really entertaining stuff. Oh, man. So many comments. All right, so...
that can go down a very dark road. If
it
we
can.
Keep it. Let's not.
We're going to be family-friendly for you right now. So, Jared.
Yes.
Titan.
And
this is... I've got nothing on this one. So really quickly, I want to say that Titan in, I believe it's Greek mythology.
Yes.
Titans were the second generation of divine beings descending from what they are called primordial deities.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting. And then this news comes out. And I love the way that they tie together.
It's pretty cool how we do mythology, and sometimes it ends up reflecting on science a little bit. So it's kind of funny that when coincidences like that happen. But we're going to go to Titan because the Cassini mission, we're now just about 5.5 weeks, more like 6 weeks away from the end of the nearly 2-decade-long Cassini mission. Wow. And it's been still doing science out at Saturn. And it's not just been science about Saturn itself, it's also been about Titan, because recent flybys of Titan have been used to place Cassini in its current orbit, where it's going between the innermost rings of Saturn and the upper cloud tops of Saturn's atmosphere. And in doing so, it gives the instruments on board a nice up-close viewpoint to look at Titan. Now, Titan's atmosphere is mostly made out of nitrogen and methane, which is much like what Earth's own atmosphere was like early in the history of the Earth. Now, in the upper atmosphere of Titan, that nitrogen and methane, they're exposed to ultraviolet radiation from sunlight. Now, that actually drives reactions in the atmosphere of Titan, which generates complex molecules, and specifically what we call anions. These are negatively charged molecules, and we were very surprised, first of all, to find them at Titan, because we weren't expecting that kind of chemistry to actually occur, and then the specific type of anion as well, called a carbon chain anion. And I'm going to definitely mess this up, but I'm going to give it a shot in trying to say it anyhow. Arclin nitrile.
Arclin nitrile.
That's
Acrylonitrile.
Oh, thank you, Dutta.
Thank you, Dutta.
Our good acrylon nitrile.
The producer of tomorrow comes through.
Yes. Now, what you can actually do with acrylon nitrile is that you can generate cell membranes with it. And we've done that in the laboratory. So, and of course, if you are a living thing, you need a membrane in order to keep all your squishy stuff inside of you. So it's very important to do that. So carbon chain anions are the precursor molecules to those vital to the existence of life. So I guess what you could technically label Titan prebiotic, as in before, it has everything that life could use. It's just that there's no evidence that there is any at the moment there.
Interesting.
So,
they put those in grape juice, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've heard that Earth itself had a really strong methane atmosphere about 3 billion years ago, and the kind of chemical operations that we're seeing on Titan are mirroring the type of chemical operations that were happening on Earth 3 billion years ago.
Exactly.
And it might naturally evolve into a very nice place one day.
Yeah, it would definitely be if there was life there, it would be what we call an extremophile, which is a type of life that thrives in areas that other general types of life don't, because the surface of Titan is very, very cold. It's like minus 230 Celsius there. Oh. It's extremely cold, and also it would have to use methane. We think that there is water ice underneath the crust of Titan, or underneath the surface of Titan there, but we're not entirely sure about that. We're confident enough to say it's probably there, but we haven't seen water ice directly below the surface. So, but it could be there, and there could be some kind of very bizarre life there that runs on methane instead of water like we do here. So, but another cool thing to add to that, this is to bring that up, Mike, is that Titan is also the only other place that we know of in our solar system that has a liquid cycle on it. So here on Earth, we have the water cycle, where water evaporates, condenses out, precipitates, flows back, and goes through a cycle. Well, it's sort of like that on Titan, except it uses methane for that.
Liquid methane and methane
so
clouds
cold.
and methane rain. And
exactly. Yeah, and because of that, the geology of Titan actually looks a lot like the geology of Earth. We see things like rivers, riverbeds, lakes of liquid methane on Titan. They even have waves on those lakes. They're not very tall. They're only a couple feet tall, but we've seen them. We've seen things like sand dunes. We've seen things like tributaries, river deltas. The exact same type of geology that we see here on Earth, we see on Titan, except it's being done with methane, not water. So
there are certain camps too who view Titan as the better candidate to be the backup of humanity over Mars. So
yeah, the atmosphere is at the surface. It's just a little bit above the atmospheric pressure of the Earth. So really, all you need all you need is a system to give you oxygen and scrub out the carbon dioxide and something to keep you warm. That's all you need. Yeah. You don't need a pressure suit on Titan. So. That's so cool.
Well, we need to move on. Talking about this sort of stuff.
We do,
Let's stop nerding out about Titan.
It's stuff like this is why we need to talk about advanced technologies to get to places like this and in the outer solar system and do more science, which is why I would want to talk about this next story here. If you don't mind, I'll just get right into it.
Go for it.
So, considering the whole budgets that were passed last month, I was really curious about the large amount of money that was directed towards this nuclear thermal propulsion program. And NASA has a long history with nuclear thermal propulsion. It goes all the way back to the very beginning, through the Rover and NERVA programs that went from 1958 to 1972. They were preparing to have nuclear thermal propulsion for the Mars program that was supposed to go to Mars in the 80s before all of that got canceled. So we already know how to do this, but the whole problem has been the uranium, using weapons-grade uranium for this. So go ahead and roll the video of this. There have been some new discoveries with some program that has been restarted way back in the Constellation program during the George W. Bush era. And they have discovered some really interesting things within the Space Technology Office. And one of those big things that they've discovered that might be why they've gotten so much more support is the type of materials they're using for the fuel rods in order to power this nuclear fission reactor. And we don't know exactly what the materials are because they've contracted with a company that supplies nuclear materials for the U.S. Navy. They're called BWXT Nuclear Energy. And that's one of the pictures of the fuel rods, and there's a whole bunch of different materials. They're calling it CERMET, some sort of ceramic material to use as the fuel to have the whole process going to have a nuclear fission reactor happen. And it's just a very, very small nuclear fission reactor. The amount of uranium that they would have inside of this thing would be about the size of a marble, excuse me. And the whole concept of how this works is that they would flow hydrogen through that reactor, which would heat up and excite the hydrogen and expel out the back and have more propulsion, or rather better efficiency, not necessarily thrust, but better efficiency than the leading chemical rockets that we have today for upper stages. And another really good concept is instead of using weapons-grade uranium, they're looking at using low-enriched uranium, which would not have as many political hurdles to it, is not as much red tape, and they could test it at facilities like you see on screen, like at the Stennis Space Center, safely, without having to upgrade a whole bunch of facilities. So this idea is actually a lot further along than people might realize. And something that I really like about this is it's almost kind of like a really super ion thruster, but with hydrogen instead of xenon, excuse me, and a nuclear reactor instead of a microwave. Kind of a big difference, but it still kind of operates under that same principle. So I'm really excited for this, and if we are able to move forward with these types of programs, NASA wants to not only have advanced propulsion to get to further out destinations faster, but also to have more ground concepts, like using fission reactors on the ground to help power Mars bases, and even in situ resource utilization. So there's a lot of really cool concepts that could come out of this, and using low-enriched uranium would not only have it be safer for people that would be involved with this, but you could get through all the political hurdles, and there wouldn't be as much of I don't even know how to say it, but there wouldn't be as much pushback to using these type of systems. And I'm really excited for the future. And if NASA is serious about this, and especially if Congress is directing them to do stuff like this, then NASA and the future that we might have might be a lot more exciting than a lot of us are thinking it might be. So very cool stuff.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny. To Wicked, who normally is very pedantic, I guess maybe, is in the chat room is saying, see, that is where NASA money needs to go. No job program rockets, new technologies in flight with private companies. Yeah.
And something I wanted to say too was regarding funding. Back in the Constellation program, like it was only getting like $1 million here, $3 million here, and with this budget that just got passed, they're getting over $100 million, which is a huge surge in that program. They can start getting more people involved and start doing a lot more tests, and they still have to prove the concept that this low-enriched uranium will work as well as they think it does. It's still hypothetical at this point, but they're pretty sure it's going to work how they expect it to. So I'm really excited for it, and just that sort of direction is, yeah, this is where NASA money should be going, is for cool projects like this. I agree.
Yes.
That's funny. I like it. All right, so Jared, exomoon.
Yeah. So we may have possibly detected an exomoon using the Kepler Space Telescope. And if this is if this signal turns out to be correct in an actual signal, this will be the first time we've discovered an exomoon going around an exoplanet. So, as this data comes out of Columbia University, we noticed that the light curve of this planet, which is Kepler 1625b, is a bit asymmetrical every time it's gone in front of its star. So it's a bit lumpy. It doesn't look exactly the same every time it goes in front of its star. And exomoon signals, as you can imagine, are incredibly difficult to separate from the signal of the planet that they are orbiting. I mean, it's hard enough finding planets going around other stars. Now we're trying to find smaller things going around the planets around other stars. The planet Kepler 1625b is 10 times the mass of Jupiter. It is a monster planet. And that exomoon, based upon the data from that signal there, would mean that that moon is about the size of Neptune. So that's a big system involved in that there. And what's so cool is that the models are suggesting that the planet formed further out and slowly moved inwards towards its star as it gathered material, slowing down the momentum of it in orbit around its star. Now, that means that it likely picked up this Neptune-sized moon from its own orbit around the star. So this Neptune-sized moon was most likely a planet all on its own, orbiting the star independent of this massive planet, and then gravitationally it just captured it in orbit around it. Now the Hubble Space Telescope is going to be used in the next few months to gather more data and provide a confirmation for the signal in the light. So looking forward to seeing if that gets confirmed, because if it does, we've got a whole new realm of study to open up.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Seki in the chat room is saying Jared Head's nickname for a moon, Lumpy.
Yeah, I think why don't you just call
just
it
about
Lumpy?
as good as anything else. Like all of these, I understand the need for the qualifications or the classifications of 1625b and all that other fun stuff. But Lumpy is I can relate to Lumpy.
Is a lumpy moon a moon? Ooh. Let's not go down this road.
Yeah, this may cause a firestorm here, but is this a gas giant moon? Or is it still...
The planet itself is definitely a gas giant. It is massive, and it's like I said, it's 10 times the mass of Jupiter, so it's big. For the moon, we don't know. It could be potentially a super Earth, because the data from Kepler may get refined with the Hubble Space Telescope, but really we have to wait for Hubble to give us the data back for us to figure that out. So, but just throwing it out there, we may have found the first one. So.
All right.
Very, very cool.
All right. We've got two more stories. I do want to get to both of them because I am actually interested in both of those. So maybe tighten it up just a little bit. Mike, you've got some interesting CubeSat ion thruster things going on. Tell us more.
Yeah, so both of these are really interesting fuel and propulsion stories. Go ahead and just start running the video, if you will. There is a company called Busick Company, based out of Massachusetts, that has developed a new type of ion thruster called the BIT-3 that uses a new solid fuel source, solid iodine, instead of a pressurized gas like xenon. And the first one that they've done this with is their thruster that they call the BIT-3. And they have smaller versions, BIT-1 and a larger version, BIT-7. But the BIT-3 is what they're doing all of these critical design reviews with the ion. And the whole thing about it is it's so compact. On screen, you can see it only takes up 1.6 units of CubeSat space. And they've been contracted to use the BIT-3 on a couple of NASA-funded CubeSats. On screen, you're seeing a test firing of this, and it can even gimbal a little bit and control spacecraft quite a bit better. It's going to be used on Morehead State University's Lunar IceCube and Arizona State University's Lunar HMAP, both of which are 6-unit CubeSats. So it's only taking up 1.6 out of the total 6 units of CubeSat space that it could take up. And with it being able to gimbal, it could be able to control and get into different orbits, wherever it's dropped off as a secondary payload. If it's in one of those geostationary transfer orbits, it might be able to use it to get all the way to geo, even though it's only like a 3 to 6 unit CubeSat, or maybe even a 12-unit CubeSat, or maybe even get placed on a lunar trajectory, or combined with that, it could even go into a lunar orbit. So combined with all these miniaturization of technologies and having some really, really small attitude control thrusters and the constantly evolving and miniaturization of technology, CubeSats like this could be as capable as some of their much larger counterparts. So I'm really excited for this because one of the first, the first SLS mission going on a trajectory around the moon is going to be dropping off a bunch of these CubeSats that will have this propulsion on it, and having a much more compact fuel source for that just could really game change the whole CubeSat market. And all of these small satellite launchers we've been talking about might have a whole lot more business. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. Very, very cool. All right, Jared, quickly.
Yes, I'll talk about this quickly. The first in what will be a month long of eclipse stories, which is the Southwest Research Institute and NASA are leading a study using instruments on board of 2 of NASA's WB-57 aircraft. Now, total solar eclipses are still some of the best times to view the sun's corona. Yeah, we can do it with spacecraft and create artificial eclipses using an instrument called a coronagraph to block out some of the light of the sun and see the outer atmosphere of our star, but nothing blocks the light quite as effectively as the moon. Now, NASA's 2 WB-57 research aircraft are going to carry a suite of instrumentation into the shadow of the moon while flying at 15,000 meters above the surface of the Earth. Now, because they're airborne and mobile, the length of totality will be extended from just a little bit over 2 minutes to nearly 7 minutes of totality. And also, those aircraft, they can fly above any inclement weather that us ground-based astronomers would have to deal with. Now, the observations are also going to include the planet Mercury, which is an unbelievably difficult target to observe because it's always very close to the glare of the sun, and then it's usually very low on the horizon, so we have to look through a lot of atmosphere, which distorts the light coming from Mercury. So very exciting that we are going to be getting some great studies of the sun and the planet Mercury out of the upcoming eclipse on August 21st, 2017. You need filters to look at the eclipse. Don't look at it with your eyes, and if you look at it with a telescope or binoculars without a filter, kiss your eyes goodbye. So
good luck with that.
How do you know if you have the right type of sunglasses to view the eclipse with?
Well, first of all, don't buy your solar eclipse glasses from Amazon because that is not a reliable source for you to go to. So the American Astronomical Society on their website has a list of providers where
approved
you can
vendors
get,
and all that sort of thing.
get them from. So and their website is aas.org. So go to that website. They have it right on the front page where to buy solar eclipse glasses or filters to take a look, and you can get that from there. So. Yeah.
One of the other big things that they were saying that is if it's truly the type of sunglasses that you can view the eclipse with, when you have them on, you shouldn't be able to see anything. It should be completely blacked out, almost like a welding helmet or something like that. So if you can see through the glasses, then they're not eclipse approved. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And also sunglasses as well don't work as well. That actually dilates your pupils and lets more light in, which is even worse.
Don't use your regular ones.
Yeah, you have to have eclipse glasses or the special solar filters that allow you to do that. So, yeah.
All right. Good job, guys.
There you go.
I'm really proud of us. All right. So we were going to have a different thing going on, and instead we have a surprise, practically by popular request, another roundtable. This one is going to be suborbital. I don't know if that means you have to sit underneath the table. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I guess we'll figure it out. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. Nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, her heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
Hi, everyone. Just give us a minute to reset.
It's Invisible Ben.
And Dud, I want to make sure that we have Mike centered up in such a way that you can cut to his camera when he's talking. I want to kind of not try to linger on camera 2 for too much if we can avoid it. All right, those all seem fairly in focus, right?
Close enough.
It's not how that works. Hello, Internet.
Sit still for me. No, I need to focus that one.
Jared is Sir Harahad of the Round Table. Oh man.
Focus, Ben.
I guess that makes Ben Credible Arthur.
There we go.
You good?
Oh. I just dropped out of chat. Whoops. That was my fault.
Mike, I like where you're at. So stay there.
here?
Yeah, I moved his.
Yeah.
I moved him.
We had an issue last week with the round table where you were off center camera because the TV was off center, so I couldn't go to you full screen because it looked lopsided.
Yeah, you compensated.
You're good.
But then I mean, you did what you should have done. But what we should have done is made it so you didn't need to compensate.
Right.
If that makes sense.
We should have compensated for you.
So much compensation. All right, are we ready?
Appreciate your compensation.
That's your tagline for next week.
So much compensation. Well, this week it's the executive producer of Tomorrow.
Yes.
All right.
Let me turn that on and do that. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
And wait, no, I'm not ready. I'm not supposed to say welcome.
You
no, I can
fool.
I can say welcome.
Don't say welcome back.
No,
they didn't
no,
go
no,
anywhere.
no. So, what is the actual correct line?
Howdy, neighbor.
Maybe if you're just joining us.
Hi, I'm Joe Isuzu.
I mean, you can go with welcome back until we figure out what it's supposed to be.
All right, we're gonna have to do that because
feel
I
like
don't know
that's
how
what
else.
we've always
I don't know what else to say.
Welcome back is because they didn't go anywhere.
It's technically wrong. They didn't leave, so you
Right.
shouldn't say welcome back. They didn't go anywhere. We went somewhere. So
Right.
technically speaking,
And
we
we're
should
back.
not.
And we're back.
And we're back to tomorrow. Oh, this room just cannot. We just can't keep it cold.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also crazy here too.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, almost like the train.
Good day, folks.
Now I'll have to do welcome back for now.
Okay.
All right.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham, the executive producer of Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Of Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow. Well, it says
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. That's what it says. I'd like to give a shout out to all the patrons of Tomorrow who've helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are Escape.
Yep. Escape.
Amazing. No, Ben, those rocks haven't broken off.
I have an opportunity. Since we weren't, we're just going to do it again.
He is now.
This is why you watch
This is why you watch live.
This
Yep.
is exactly why you.
Escape. You're the Escape Velocity.
Quick, hit the escape system.
Escape Velocity system.
Abort, hit the escape.
Welcome back to Tomorrow. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham, the executive producer of Tomorrow. Now, before we get into our roundtable this week about suborbital spaceflight, I want to give a thank you to all of the Escape Velocity patrons. These are people who contributed $10 or more to this specific episode. We also have our orbital patrons. These are people who've contributed $5 or more to this specific episode. We could not do this show without all of our patrons. To find out our new reward levels and our new goals, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. All right. We're kind of excited for this particular. You get two in a row, two roundtables in a row, like nothing for 20-something episodes, then two roundtables in a row.
The best part is that somebody out there right now is like, no, I only wanted one round table.
You said one!
What are you guys doing?
This one is about suborbital space. We talked a lot about, the big, huge rockets going to Mars. We talked last time about the Space Launch System going to Mars, going to Moon, and beyond. But what about, there's this whole industry that kind of popped up after the, I almost said Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander X Prize Challenge. No, after the Ansari X Prize.
Yes, Ansari X Prize.
Which was sending a human into suborbital space twice. That was how you had to win that particular competition. So, Space Mike, before we get into that, why don't we start with you, and then we'll kind of go around the table, which is, why should we care all about suborbital spaceflight?
Well, the whole thing with the Ansari X Prize and Spaceship One winning that is, Chan's company, Scale Composites, did that for pretty cheap in comparison to some systems. And the whole idea and the whole promise, especially after it was won and several different excited business people got involved, the whole promise was that eventually regular people would be able to afford a suborbital trip. And everyone could go to space and have that overview effect, even if just for 5 minutes. And that was kind of the whole idea, and that this would open up space, and that suborbital tourism would kind of be the everyman's gateway to space. And that would lead to a whole much larger industry in a whole bunch of different avenues. And we're kind of starting to see that sort of promise of what would happen after suborbital tourism, even though suborbital tourism hasn't actually happened yet. And the whole thing with this is that so many new companies started around that time. Some of them had already been created and been working on different projects, but Virgin Galactic got started after 2004. X-Corps got really serious and got the rocket racer contract after that whole thing, and just a whole bunch of different companies started up. Even one of our favorite do-it-yourself groups, Copenhagen Suborbitals, started their company right around the same time as well. So it started a whole kind of new wave, and this might have even been where the whole new space wave started, at least the modern new space wave. And things haven't quite gone according to plan.
All right, now before we get into that, and we will get into that, Jared, let's pose that same question to you. Why should we care about suborbital space?
Well, one of the cool things in science is that we're always doing experiments. We're always trying to figure out things and really work on the bleeding edge of technology and our understanding of the universe and all those things. And some of the experiments that we do fall into a category where you can't really use a drop tower to test them. Because we do have these towers where you can drop experiments and you can get 5 to 6 seconds of microgravity out of them.
Okay. Yeah.
And you don't also want to spend a large sum of money to put your payload on as a secondary payload to an orbital flight. So there is that sort of area right in the middle where you want a couple minutes of being able to operate your experiment.
What about a parabolic flight?
So sometimes that doesn't give you enough time, because in a parabolic flight you can get 15 to 30 seconds maximum out of microgravity. And you may want to get maybe, say, 4 to 5 minutes to really test the system in microgravity before you scale it up to actually send it on an orbital flight or somewhere around there. So for me, suborbital is very exciting because it has the potential to open up the sort of orbital experiments that would have to have been done by major universities and other scientific groups, and really puts it into the hands of people who wouldn't generally get that opportunity. So that's what's most exciting about suborbital to me, is being able to do that.
So, Carrie Ann, I know you are a space nerd, but you also have your finger on the pulse of kind of non-space geeks as well. I think more so than anyone else here. So, from that perspective, why should someone who doesn't care about space at all, I'm giving you the hardest of all these questions. Why should someone who doesn't care about space at all care about suborbital spaceflight?
It is difficult, and it's a hard sell, right? There aren't typically humans on a suborbital flight. There are, when you're doing the suborbital experiments, there aren't typically humans. I mean, there are humans involved, obviously, but it's not like you can shake a suborbital astronaut's hand, right? That isn't something that I can do, that I aspire to, or anything along those lines. So trying to find the sort of human elephant element, or the way that I can connect and care about what's going on in suborbital is difficult at times. Now, there are some people, some companies, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, of course, that do want to do the suborbital flight part. That's something I am kind of I'm becoming more and more interested in as days go by. The zip line helped. At
the San Diego Safari Zoo, I made her go on. They have a very large zip line, one of the largest in North America, and she is terrified of heights. And so, but you went on it, and it was fun, and it was very cool.
I lived, and I did not scream, nor did I cause a stampede.
So because I got you on a zip line, that means now I can get you on a suborbital flight?
That's not what I said. It doesn't matter.
Small steps.
Thank you. Baby steps. I think that's actually where my point is going, is that, not everyone does want to go to Mars for the sake of humanity reasons, or just because they want to have a really great view of Olympus Mons. Like, there are those of us that do still want to have those ties to Earth, and I think suborbital is a necessary baby step to get between here and the Moon, and or here and Mars, or beyond, if that helps at all. We are learning quite a bit in suborbital space, which is really fantastic. And there's a lot of things like Made in Space that is doing a lot of fun stuff on the International Space Station that I find interesting and approachable, that I can understand. You don't always get the chance to bring all of the tools that you need with you to the International Space Station, or even a little bit further than that. But sometimes you just need that wrench, and wrenches are heavy. Or I can 3D print one, and it's going to be a lot lighter, it's going to be a lot faster, and it's going to be a lot cooler because it's 3D printed.
So you actually touched on something interesting, kind of back in this whole everyone else concept. Is suborbital actually an easier target for everyone else because it's approachable to them? It's something that maybe they can do as opposed to orbital, which, to the best of my knowledge, there are no orbital plans right now for everyone else.
But that's the thing, you hear these sort of, there's only so many astronauts in the entire world. There's only so many astronauts in the entire world. Yeah. Above and beyond that, then you have like I am in an extremely privileged situation where I happen to be able to interact with more astronauts than I can probably name, honestly. And thank you for that. And I call these people friends, and it's really fantastic. But it's funny to see, even amongst the astronaut corps, how sometimes they will rib each other about, like, well, yes, I mean, we did both fly on shuttle together, and so we both have been to space, but I have gone to Hubble. And you, dear friend, have not. Right? So there's
they totally do this, and it's hilarious.
There are only so many people who can call themselves astronauts. Above and beyond that, there's only so many people who are flown astronauts. Then there's the how many hours in space have I spent? How many, I've gone to Hubble and you haven't. I've gone to the moon. Oh, well, I went around the moon. Oh, that's great. I walked on the moon. And it is partially in jest, don't get me wrong, but it does still sort of exist. And I love that there's a camaraderie, but there is a little bit of a competition there. And in the same vein, on a much more diluted manner, to be able to say, I've gone on a plane, oh, I've gone on a parabolic plane, oh, I've gone to some suborbital plane, are different things. But those are things that I can relate to. That's something that I feel is a little bit out of my grasp right now, but is still achievable if that's something I actually truly desire, as opposed to saying, well, I'm gonna go live on Mars. And I mean, I love Ginge, the mighty Ginge, and becoming Martian and all of that stuff. I fully support that, but and not saying anything about whether or not how he believes he's going to get there, but I don't see myself as being a Martian. I don't see myself as being on Mars, but I do see myself potentially, and some of my friends, going on a Blue Origin flight, or going on a Virgin Galactic flight, or hanging out in a Bigelow inflatable hotel. Like, that seems like something I could do. And it's much more approachable, I think.
I think that's a great segue. Going back to space, Mike, you had talked about a little bit about the promises of suborbital flight, say 10 years ago, and that's back with around the time of the Ansari X Prize, right? We sent an astronaut up into space twice, to suborbital space twice, and brought him safely back, and that was supposed to open up a whole new era of suborbital spaceflight, be it point-to-point or just suborbital in general, but it doesn't seem to have turned out quite like we had planned. Can you touch on that? Like, what did we think was going to happen versus what happened there?
Well, I think that part of the reason why things didn't pan out might have been all the promises. We can touch on that a little bit later, but what everyone expected was that, okay, this company has built a brand new airplane to be a carrier plane and a brand new spaceship that can actually do this and can be piloted. There was even talks about making like a spaceship 1.5 where it would have an extra seat behind the pilot so that you could start taking up passengers right now. And the whole idea, I mean, Virgin Galactic, of course, got probably the most amount of media attention back then when they had officially started up and actually had stuff to start showing people. And, the whole idea was that, it was going to happen any day. It was going to be happening any day. And you saw all these competitors coming out, some of whom in some areas might have been further along, in other areas might have been further behind, but it seemed like a reality. And for me, being a lower to middle class economic person, that's a very achievable goal for me. Going on a parabolic flight is a very achievable goal. I could save up for a year and definitely go on a parabolic flight. And as a lifetime goal for an avid space fan, to be able to actually actually go on a suborbital flight like that for anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000, I could do that. That's an achievable life goal for me. Someone who isn't qualified to be an astronaut, who doesn't have the education to be an astronaut, that's an achievable goal. And I think that was the whole thing that brought in so many people. So there was all this expectation, and everyone thought it was just going to be any day now, 6 months away, 6 months away, 6 months away. But then that didn't happen. And some of the competitors got sidetracked. One of my favorite competitors to Virgin Galactic was X-Core Aerospace. And they didn't have the type of funding and capital that Virgin Galactic did. Not only did Virgin Galactic have kind of a large base to begin with Richard Branson's finances, but they got so many sponsorships. I mean, just from the ABAR investments from the United Arab Emirates, they've invested, I believe it's over $500 million. It might even be close to like $800 million. I don't know how much money they've actually invested, but it's a lot. So X-Core didn't have those opportunities, and neither did a lot of the other people that were trying to do suborbital space tourism. And the kind of surprise was Blue Origin, because Jeff Bezos' finances was enough to fund that on its own. So he didn't need investments, and he didn't need to be reaching out and publicizing every new idea to try to get funding and get support. And I think that's where some of this kind of floundered. It might have had a little bit of oversaturation with so many competitors, and with things going off in different directions, with X-Core wanting to make engines for other projects was how they were bringing in money to fund their spaceplane project, the Link spaceplane, to do suborbital tourism. And whenever you're
by the way, on the
dependent
screen,
something
that
else.
is the links. That is a.
That is the links. That
Yep.
was one of the most recent pictures of where their current progress is with their test version of the links. The full mock-up that's going to have their engines, and they tested their engines extensively, and they have some pretty efficient engines. The technology that they developed for that is actually really, really good. Good enough that United Launch Alliance was tapping them on the shoulder to produce small engines for their ACES upper stage. And once that contract, that's the reason why X-Core, according to Jay Gibson, the last CEO of X-Core, that's his reason for why X-Core is now essentially defunct and has laid off pretty much all of their employees. The last original founding member of the company left just a couple of weeks ago. And it's all because they lost that ULA contract. And that's a scary situation for companies that don't have the type of funding that they want, that if they do get some sort of life-saving contract or some sort of lifeline contract like that, and the contract is canceled, they need to have something else to back up to ensure that their whole company just doesn't go by the wayside. And that's why I really like Maston Space Systems. We can talk a lot about how Maston Space Systems has kind of dipped in as many different areas as they can, doing lots of suborbital science. And I wouldn't even call some of it suborbital, since it's just a low altitude flight, but doing really interesting science and having their business in as many places as they can and as many customers that they can. And I don't even believe that Maston is doing exactly what he wants to be doing right now. I think that he has way more grandiose plans than he's even told any of us. But he's doing what he needs to in order for his company to be lucrative and successful, to slowly and incrementally do the things that he actually wants to do. And I could go on for a little while, but we should direct this in a different direction.
Well, and there are a few comments in the chat room, and actually, one of them came from earlier in the show in our chat room from Lur, who is kind of stepping on that as well. Who asked, "Who is doing suborbital other than Blue Origin and Virgin?"
Now?
You touched on Maston. We used to have X-Core and Armadillo. Armadillo fell by the wayside as well. That was a John Carmack. And there's
there was
that's Armadillo
Kistler,
right there.
of
Yeah.
course. Kistler, of course, the one who had the original commercial cargo contract before Orbital ATK did, they were going to do suborbital space tourism. Then there was Rocket Plane, which kind of was the after Kistler dissolved, there was Rocket Plane, I think it was XL or something like that, and they were going to do suborbital space tourism. And then there was the Swiss company, Swiss Space Systems, which, holy crap, some sort of crazy intrigue happened to them. I mean, the founder was abducted and set on fire,
yeah,
and then they went
that was
bankrupt
terrible.
out of nowhere.
That was
holy
terrible.
cow! There's definitely
But that brings up
some
Copenhagen,
shady
yeah?
stuff going behind the scenes.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
And I don't think that then there's Copenhagen, There were several others within the America itself that at least had ideas back in like 2007, 2008 that didn't get the funding they needed and aren't doing anything now. And I feel like a lot of those companies have gone and are looking more at the small satellite market.
Yeah, but to be clear, Copenhagen is still doing things, right?
Yeah,
so Copenhagen
yeah.
is still around, and they're crazy in the most awesome way possible.
They're literally,
I don't know how else to describe them.
Right.
They're literally a bunch of volunteers building a rocket to put a capsule on top of it.
Well,
It's like what's your hobby? Oh, I collect stamps. Oh, I go hiking. Yeah, I just build rockets with a little capsule to put on top.
And submarines and entire ship launching systems,
Yeah.
and they just do it.
We need to
and
have
they
them back
stream
on
all
soon,
of this
dude.
stuff live. No, it's incredible what they're doing. I absolutely love it. They're like, we can build a rocket.
Yeah, they're coming up on flying their rocket again in
Yep.
like a week and a half, something
So,
like that.
flying now, we've got Blue Origin, we've got Virgin Galactic, we've got Copenhagen. Is there anyone else, or is suborbital a place where you design a company to go die? right? I mean, I can name more.
It's involving humans, maybe.
Right, I can
Trying
name
to
more.
launch humans in the suborbit. That's I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think I can name more suborbital companies that have gone by the wayside than are actually in active development today.
But isn't that kind of how it works?
Sure, but Dada brought up a good point, right? There's 27 to 29 companies who entered into the Ansari X Prize, and you're right. Like, how many can we name right now?
Yeah.
That's fair.
That seems to be how it works.
Scaled composites.
Yeah, I was going to say Scale Composites is still around.
They're the ones who won, which turned. So it's not. This is what point of confusion. Virgin Galactic didn't win the Ansari X Prize. It's Scaled Composites that won, and then not Jeff Bezos. Sir Richard Branson went to them and said, "Hey, I want to build something bigger." And that's where Virgin Galactic was born out of, and it's Spaceship Two, White Knight 2 is based on the same fundamental concepts as Spaceship 1, White Knight 1, but bigger. So that's how all of that comes.
Well, and then there's Virgin Orbit with this launcher one, but that's small sats, and that's a slightly different.
That's a different thing. Yep. But
And that kind of goes into where that was kind of what the promise was of what suborbital tourism would open up. It would open up all these different markets, including launching small satellites all the way into orbit and eventually having orbital tourism and all these things in between suborbital and orbital tourism. And I feel like some of these companies have kind of gone more in that direction of all the in-between stuff. Like Virgin Galactic, it looks like that their Launcher 1 system is going to fly into space before Spaceship 2 does. And they've been working on Spaceship 2 for over 10 years now. So,
to
holy
be fair,
cow.
humans
And
are hard.
Humans are
Humans are
finicky,
hard, very hard.
and you need capital
Definitely very hard.
Yeah.
in order to make it work.
And, yeah, I mean, you need to have plans there. Actually, there's an interesting point from Destructor1701 in the chat room, kind of talking to a little bit about what you were talking about, putting humans back on board, which is hypersonic point-to-point suborbital passenger flights want, and that actually ties directly into with Seki is saying, which is city to city suborbital, and then Factor says suborbital could be a money-making deal if you can use it to land in totally different areas of the planet, Australia, so forth and so on. So. The kind of the general concept of using suborbital flights not just as a place to kind of go up and be, overview effect, but actually as a business of like, I want to go from
Not just tourism
New York,
business, but business.
I want to go from New York to London, and I want to do it in 90 minutes.
Right.
Suborbital flights may open something like that up.
Yeah, it would basically be the ultimate business jet for someone who can afford it.
Then the question is, can they get the
Be
price
next
down?
airline industry eventually.
Yeah, potentially. So that would be really cool.
It would be cool, but they couldn't fill up the Concorde, and that was less expensive, and carried more people. So, is there a business for that? And maybe there is. I don't know.
Well, is there an advantage in getting from London to Sydney in 90 minutes? Is there an?
I don't want to
Money is
sit on an
time.
airplane. Let me tell you right now, I have to go to Australia at the end of September, and I am not looking forward to that 15-hour flight. Right?
So, Leland Rogers, 1944, in the chat room says suborbital as a means rather than a destination. Yeah. I mean, I think that is. I think if suborbital can figure out that actually is their business case, then they would have a case for business.
Is that part of the problem with suborbital right now? Is we don't know the business case? Like there isn't a valid business plan here
Potentially
for humans in suborbital. Like we talk about, let's talk a little bit about experiments again, right? So you talked about having a little bit more time with experiments, not having to go all the way to orbit. Like, can you go into detail a little bit about how that's valuable? I mean, because some of these flights are, they're still expensive. They're still millions of dollars just to fly once.
Actually, can I clarify something really quickly? When we're talking about those sorts of experiments, does that include experiments on the International Space Station or anything that has been launched from the International Space Station? Like there's those cool fire experiments that have gone from station down to Earth. Like, does that fall into that category?
I would imagine that not every experiment that actually goes to or launches on an orbital system needs to actually launch on an orbital system. You may need literally 4 to 5 minutes of data gathering in order to get your experiment working, or to get the data from your experiment to either prove or disprove what you're working on. And why should you spend $2 to $3 million to do that when I can go fly on a Blue Origin vehicle and actually only pay $250,000 for that? Suddenly, I can get a grant for $250,000. I can't get a grant for $2 to $3 million.
Right.
So that should enable me to actually be able to do that. So, yeah. And I mean,
Let's not forget that sounding rockets launch all of the time. There's still ongoing sounding rocket programs, which are suborbital flights to do these exact type of experiments that Jared is talking about. And that's been going on since way back in the early days of when NASA was still the NACA. So, I mean, there's still valuable science to be learned from suborbital flights like this. Just need a couple minutes, but a little bit more than a few seconds.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I would love to fly an experiment into space, but
You want to go with it?
Yeah, that's another reason too. Why build it to run automated when you can have a person there? And I need to be with my experiment as it's flying suborbital, by the way. So I guess there is sort of those kinds of those kinds of bragging rights that come with it. But really, it's about enabling, to me, specifically with the science, it's about enabling the ability of a college-level student, like an undergraduate researcher, to actually fly an experiment that they've developed, because the chances of them getting on a orbital launch manifest is probably slim to none. But if you choose suborbital, you compromise from going into orbit to suborbital with what looks like is going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years in suborbital flight area. You could see a lot of graduate and undergraduate doctoral researchers actually getting to fly experiments to space. And there is a level of prestige that comes with that, but there's also bottom line experience that you're doing that. Right now, not a lot of engineering programs in the United States, or really anywhere in the world, frankly, actually allow you to fly a payload to space. So if you can get that on your credentials, that's a huge, huge advantage in terms of what you can actually do when you actually go out to the market to see where you want to go. So.
Question from the chat room. Andrew Shire asks, Blue Origin has done this, yes, and I think it's going to lead quite well into our last general question, which is, no, they have flown test flights, but they've not sent any humans up, and that's kind of a little bit what we're talking about. There are two categories here, right? There's suborbital with payloads, which we fundamentally have done, like Space Mike was mentioning. Sounding rockets, there are ways to do this. But really what we're kind of looking at here is suborbital with humans, right? And so suborbital with humans, no one has really done this other than the Ansari X Prize. No one has done this to scale. How's that?
There's been 7 crewed suborbital flights.
Right, so no one's done it to scale.
Yeah.
Right,
So
so
no one's
doing it regularly,
way back
I guess.
in the day then. Okay, if you're counting the X-15.
Well, and you could count Mercury, Gemini, right? I mean, when we're referring to suborbital here, I think we're kind of saying more than just the technical side of not going to orbit. It's more of the idea that regular people can do it, right? So kind of not just kind of cherry picking the other items. Just it's when can I buy a ticket? for example, even if it's $250,000. When can I buy my $250,000 ticket? And that hasn't happened yet. That's not a real thing yet.
Yeah.
So
essentially, someone can literally come in off the street and buy a ticket instead of having to spend 10 years in the military or through some sort of very high-end scientific work, a minimum 10 years to pull that off. I could just walk into a Blue Origin office right next to Starbucks and say, how much?
Sure.
How much of a down payment do I need to put down?
Well, Lur in the chat room says, if suborbital to become a passenger service city to city, would a potential passenger have to pass a health exam? Would regular passengers be able to handle the microgravity? That's
my understanding is no. It's regular passengers can go.
I mean, that's my understanding too. But
Depends on the vehicle, I guess. Maybe at first, but maybe later they might have to. There wouldn't be any restrictions like that. I guess it depends on the vehicle, but
So
one thing I did want to clear up though about Andrew Shire's questions is, although Blue Origin hasn't sent any people yet, they have had science payloads on all of their test flights so far. And
Yeah.
I think I even got made fun of a little bit in some of the space pods reporting on their flights where they had experiments and people are just like, oh, that's not, well, whatever, who cares? But yeah, they have done science experiments at least, so they're already starting to utilize that even through their test program. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of those experiments they flew was called Box of Rocks, and it was literally a box of rocks experiment, and it was an experiment that was done to see how rocks actually come together in microgravity, because that environment, microgravity, is extremely close to what the surface gravity on asteroids and comets is like. So if you could see how rocks are distributed on the surface, or distributed in your experiment, you could figure out how they get distributed on the surface of an asteroid or a comet. So, I guess Blue Origin's already doing that. So,
all right. So then that leads me to my last question, which is we still seem to be 6 months out for most everything. Yeah, they've got some experiments going on, but it feels like suborbital, like full-on suborbital flight, still feels like it's 6 months out. Will suborbital ever be real, or is everyone just going to fall by the wayside? This is something that just doesn't have a valid business case. Are we ever going to see real suborbital flights, or is it going to be eclipsed by something else? Jared, we'll start with you.
I think we will. I think that quote by Richard Feynman, which is that reality takes precedence over public relations, for nature cannot be fooled, kind of is a good thing to apply to suborbital spaceflight. We were super optimistic back in 2004 when coming off the high of Spaceship One, doing 3 suborbital flights in 1 year. And everyone was having the equivalent of go fever at that time, and really forgot about the fact that going to space is really difficult. Even if you're going suborbital, it's difficult. It's hard. It's not easy. There is no easy part of going to space. It's very, very tough, both from an engineering and a physical and a psychological standpoint. So, we were a little overly optimistic, but we're eventually going to get there. And I think within the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see not just experiments going, but finally paying customers actually going to space, suborbital. So,
Space Mike, I'll pose the same question to you. It feels like we're constantly 6 months out. Is it ever going to be a real thing?
I think it will be a real thing, but I think that when it actually does happen, it won't last long. That's what I feel like. I feel like Virgin Galactic, just because they've put so much into this and, reputation's at stake and all that sort of thing, I think that they will fly at least a couple of times, just for the sake of doing it. And I think that Blue Origin is going to win the whole race, doing their whole slow and steady. And they will be the ones who might do it for a little while, but that they'll eventually stop doing any suborbital tourism in favor of all the orbital stuff. And they might even transition over to orbital tourism and being able to start taking people to Bigelow stations and stuff like that once New Glenn has been flying for quite a while and they have their own crew vehicle, which they've been working on the side all along. They're going to be upgrading the New Shepard capsule and having a type of vehicle that would be an orbital vehicle for humans. So that's something that they're working on the side anyway. So
well, not on the side.
Goes, but I feel like once suborbital systems actually happen, which I do believe they will happen, it won't last long. Maybe a year, maybe 2, and then it won't be a thing anymore.
I don't think Blue Origin's plan is suborbital, though, right? I mean, it seems like Jeff Bezos wants this to be a humans working in space company, right? To get cislunar space occupied with people. That seems to be their business plan. So
But
suborbital is simply
is a
a
stepping
step.
stone
It's a step, but
on
it seems
that
like
path.
it is a step on that path. But to your point, I think that's just like their first step, and then their very next step is going to be, okay, let's go orbital, because that's the next natural step, and then let's get into Lagrange points, and let's get some space stations up there. Let's get some people working in space, kind of thing. So
Let's get the new Armstrong so we have our own SLS.
Yep. Yeah,
and
yeah.
do the type of things that would be capable of.
Carrie Ann, pose that same question to you. 6 months out, you think it'll ever be real?
Yeah, no. I kind of along the same lines as what Mike is saying, that I don't think it'll actually even become like a real thing and then fall by the wayside. I think the very natural progression is, as soon as we start learning something in suborbital, but now we know that we can apply it to orbital, we're just going to take it and apply it to orbital, right? So you do all of those baby steps in order to learn just that one extra thing, and then you go, oh, great, now I know that thing. Let's put it over here instead, because that's really where I want to go. It sounds like that's where a lot of these companies really want to go anyway. You brought up the Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander X Prize Challenge.
That's a mouthful.
It's not even what it was called at the time.
I know.
But in that title, take out Northrop Grumman, take out X Prize Challenge, Lunar Lander.
Sure.
That was the challenge. Mm-hmm. It wasn't to go suborbital. It was to land on the moon.
They have a lander that can go land
Sure,
on the moon.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think any time that any one of these companies, whoever it is, Blue Origin, SpaceX, whatever, Virgin, all of the things, that as soon as something gets learned kind of over here and we figure that part out, and then it can be applied to the bigger project, the one that we really want to do, but we can't, because we either we can't figure it out or we can't afford it yet, automatically we'll get pushed over that way.
Well, and actually, so that's a really good point. Do we think, and I realize that was supposed to be the last question, but is the suborbital technology that we're developing now, does that become the entry, descent, landing technology we use for the moon and Mars and other bodies? Is that what we use? Is suborbital really the stepping stone to moon and Mars?
Potentially, although the environments that your entry, descent, and landing are going through here on Earth on a suborbital flight are radically different from the environments that you have for entry, descent, and landing on Mars or the Moon. The Moon, you have no atmosphere, so it's all propulsion going to the surface of the Moon. For Mars, there's just enough atmosphere that you have to have a heat shield to make it work, but there's not enough atmosphere for your parachute to slow you down completely, so you also have to go propulsion on Mars as well. I mean, even the Sojourner, the first Mars rover, and the 2 Mars exploration rovers, they used airbags, but they still had to use propulsion to slow them down enough to allow the airbags to work. So,
Yeah, I believe what is the quote? Something along the lines of, Mars has just enough atmosphere to make life miserable, but not enough to actually be helpful.
that's right.
Something along those lines.
And so far, lithobraking on Mars hasn't worked. So,
All right.
Well, before we go, Ben, what about you? 6 months out, do you think it'll ever happen or not?
Actually, I think I'm pretty close to you. I think it will happen. I think we're going to see suborbital spaceflight with humans on board become a thing. The question is, will there become a business plan that allows that to extend beyond when humans go orbital? Is it 6 months out? Probably not. It's probably longer than that. I think the major players are going to be Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. I don't know who's going to make it first. And then it's going to be, okay, is this a point-to-point? Is it just for overview effect? And if it's just for overview effect, as someone said in the chat room, hang on, let me go. Heliopausing said, can you get the overview effect from a balloon? And while a balloon is not going to space, or even close, yes, the answer is yes. I think you can get the overview effect from a balloon. So is suborbital useful for overview effect? And I would say, yeah, that's one of the things, but if you're just doing it for overview effect, I don't think there's a business case there. So then, if you just follow the money, where's the business case? It's going to be with, I think, point-to-point destinations, getting going to Australia in not 15 hours, right? I totally see a business case for that, but can you get the ticket price down to a point where it makes sense? So a lot of variables there. I don't know if they'll figure it out. But if they do figure out, it may stay. And if they don't, I think, as you said, as most people said, it's just going to go straight to orbital. I think orbital is going to be, I think orbital might be the next big thing of this cislunar stuff. But, you know, my crystal ball only looks forward like 1 day.
6 months?
Yeah, not even 6 not even 6 months, like 1 day. I barely know what I'm doing tomorrow. So what do you guys think? Actually, let me pose the question to the community. What do you think of suborbital flight? And we'll kind of make this, the show is a little more specific to human suborbital space flight. So let's make the questions to you specific to human suborbital space flight. When do you think it's going to happen? Rough guess. And do you think it's going to stay? Do you think it's going to stick? Or do you think it'll happen at all, right? Is this something that's actually going to happen inside of the industry? Or is there just no point to it? It's going to go straight to orbital. Leave your comments on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want, wherever we're at. And we'll bring them up on our next show. Speaking of, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, comments from our last show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We've always looked to the stars. They guide us, give us comfort, help us find our way. We see ourselves out there. When we look up, it inspires us. And we long for something we don't yet know. We yearn to go there. So, we venture forth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for man.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not.
Many think we stopped exploring. But we know our journey didn't end. We've only just begun.
Orion is functioning perfectly at this point.
Come with us and explore tomorrow.
We are back. Now, before we get into comments from our last show, I wanted to give a huge shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are people who've contributed $10 or more to this specific episode. Or so, and they get a bunch of rewards, including After Dark as soon as it's available, the Discord channel, a bunch of fun jazz, and there are whole new rewards. We've also got our Orbital patrons. These are people who've contributed $5 or more to this specific episode, and we have our suborbital patrons. These are people who've contributed $2.50 and are aptly named for this episode.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
And to find out those rewards and how you can help crowdfund the shows of Tomorrow to keep us doing this week after week, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. All right, last week we had a roundtable as well on the Space Launch System. How many comments did you say were on YouTube alone? Is
135.
Passionate. A lot of people did not like what I had to say about Space Launch System, and we got a fantastic number of thumbs downs. So I can only imagine that is from a bunch of people who are really either into new space or really into old space or just fundamentally disagreed with it.
Wow, you struck a nerve, man.
Apparently we struck a nerve. So a lot of really great comments. So let's go ahead and get started. Capcom.
A lot.
What is up first?
Well, I do really quickly want to address, somebody said something about how this is not a round table, this is a half round table, and how they were very disappointed in that. That one of those comments came off of YouTube, and Dada very aptly made the comment that you are the other half, and you have completed the circle. Yeah. This is why we have this discussion. So, some of the
actually,
other
I like
half,
that. I would mock you, but I actually like that.
I know, because some of the other half of the circle.
You make up the rest of the round circle.
There you go.
I would say because this table is not a full circle, it is a dwarf table.
Wow. Not even going there. Nope. Nope.
I saw a fantastic
Capcom,
shirt.
what's our first comment?
No, hang on. I saw a great shirt. I saw a great shirt last night. It listed off all of the, all the planets in the solar system,
and then
it had Pluto on the bottom, and then it was scratched out, and then it was written in again, and it, like handwritten underneath
handwritten
it, and it says, "I'm back."
So good.
It was great.
So good. Shout out to Derek's girlfriend who found the shirt in Barcelona.
Yeah, we tried to find it, but I can't find it. And then there's there's the Think Geek shirt, right?
No, that's a Woot shirt that Jared has, so maybe that will be making an appearance sometime on the show.
Oh, we're not. Apparently, it's going to be a surprise.
Surprise!
All right.
All right. So there was, of course, at least one question from the chat room last week that we did not get a chance to get to from Neuropilot. It was actually a question directed at Space Mike saying, do you have any thoughts on the quote-unquote green science actually being pushed by DoD, Pentagon, SecDef, because fuel is expensive?
That's the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, and the Secretary of Defense.
There you go.
Yeah. So I feel like those organizations are definitely looking at as many possible avenues as possible. But when you're talking about the American government, no one spends money better than the American government. I mean, so they're spending a lot of money in a lot of different things, and they might actually be, putting funding in, real research and development of this. And some of these things have actually yielded some cool results. But they haven't been put into practice yet. Like, for example, I heard of a really, really, really awesome green propellant that was one of these DARPA projects that would be a much, much better thruster propellant instead of using really toxic hydrazine. So we have this great brand new fuel, and no one's using it. It's not put into practice. Is that a patent now for the DoD? Can only the military use that? Can only the American defense military industrial complex use that? Or is that something that should be utilized in technology and replace the stuff that we have? So whether or not the Department of Defense is going to actually push these green fuels, that's yet to be seen. And maybe they're trying to work on something. Okay, this green fuel is cool, but we want something even greener. We want something even better. And maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know.
Well, there's another advantage to some of these fuels, like Mass and Space Systems has one, right?
Yeah, MXP 351.
But they're also easier to store. Not only are they green, but you can just store them at room temperature. So just ignore the green side of it for a moment. It's just easier to deal with.
Yeah.
And people, I think, sometimes forget rockets are expensive. Ground systems are more expensive. Ground systems are stupid expensive and hard and complicated.
Yeah.
And if you can make it so you don't need to deal with cryogenic fuels anymore, huge win for the industry.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about
companies.
Oh, go ahead.
Companies that are using those green fuels have had to kind of develop them on their own independently. They've come to their own discoveries. They're not using the stuff that the Department of Defense has been using, and that's where I get hung up on it. So, sorry, just wanted to clarify that.
Actually, Johnny Spacer also says in the chat room, I wouldn't say green, rather non-toxic. Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right?
That's their buzzword they like to use.
Yeah, but I mean, they're definitely greener than Carolox engine, or even the salt,
nitrogen tetroxide methylene mono propellant. Good God,
that's more of a red fuel.
They say it smells like fish, but nobody's been able to live long enough to tell us. So.
It's terrible.
So, but with something like MXP 351, all you need is splash protection and a very simple chemical respirator in order. And if you spill it, you literally just hose it off. I mean, that's how you clean it up. You just get a hose and you spray off where you spilled it at. I mean, that's so much better than hydrazine.
Right.
Gracious.
All right. Next up, Capcom.
All right. Next comment comes off of YouTube. Of course, we have a correction. This is from Rabindra Mishra. Says, just a quick correction, the quote-unquote Sprites miniature satellites launched in relation to Breakthrough Starshot was actually launched on ISRO's PSLV C-38 from
Sriharikota.
Thank you, Sriharikota, India, June 23. They weren't launched on a Soyuz rocket, like you guys mentioned. Those sort of things happen. So.
Yep.
Also, it's a quick acronym. ISRO, that's the Indian Space Research Organization. The PSLV, I believe, is the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle.
Yep, but that is correct. I was wrong. You are right. So.
Well, but I mean, that's not like a you're wrong, you're right. I don't want you to feel bad about that.
No, it's true.
Sometimes we say stuff like that.
I'm 100% okay with being corrected if I'm wrong. So
yeah.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So
a couple of people mentioned that. That was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
That's cool.
All right. Next comment also comes off of YouTube because, again, there were a lot of comments on YouTube.
Yeah.
Man, this one comes from Christopher and
Made you angry.
Oh, it's just a lot to go through, man. On top of everything else, NERVA is ready to go right now. The last iteration worked perfectly without any reactor core spew. One SLS, or Space Launch System Block 1, to launch an inert NERVA booster, one to loft a Skylab-sized vehicle with fuel, and one to launch a crew. If you have a solar flare, point the reactor and shielding at it. Then send it to Phobos and back. Hey, real exploration and science doable right now.
You know, we talked about this in After Dark 2 weeks ago, I think it was, which is, you know, we all like nuclear-based propulsion. NERVA's the, nuclear-based propulsion.
Nuclear thermal propulsion.
We all like it. With the exception of some governments, private space being able to do it. And I believe in news you guys were talking about private industry kind of trying to work with that. But you know, as I understand it, that's more of like a design. It's not. They're not actually working with the materials yet, are they? I don't think they are.
They are. They're testing fuels right now. They're testing fuels in a small reactor. There was a picture in one of those at the Marshall Space Flight Center where they are doing tests with a small type of reactor that would be the size that they would use. And literally, the fuel inside is so tiny. And some of those pictures, like the one where it has the glowing rod with the spiral around it, that was one of the fuel rods, those Surmet fuel rods that they were testing to see if that actually would be a good fuel source or not, in order to have, in order to split the uranium, in order to have nuclear fission to occur.
But so, are they working with it, or is there a government agency that's kind of doing it for them?
No, NASA's doing this at the Marshall Space Flight Center.
Right. So, okay, so here's my point.
And NASA's the one who did all the NERVA stuff back in the day in the first place,
right.
too.
So now, government-based nuclear propulsion might be a thing.
The only thing they're contracting out is the sources. They're contracting out like the uranium and stuff like that.
It won't be. It won't be a thing. So even if the technology works, great. Even if it works better than anything else, let's look at the state of the industry right now, which is nuclear power is the cleanest, least deadly power we have on the planet. It works great most of the time, and people are terrified of it. Absolutely terrified of it. And if you say, I'm going to make this nuclear rocket that's going to launch through the atmosphere over near your homes, you cool with that? People are going to go, not cool with that. Not cool with that, and it's going to be shut down.
Yeah, in the past half a decade, nuclear has become a very bad word.
It's a bad word. Now,
and
I don't agree with that. Obviously,
yeah.
I think it's. I don't think so. With enough protection and with enough research, we can do some really great things here.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter. The political climate is too toxic for this, and it will not be a thing. Just straight. Anyone who's working on this, I think it's cool. I'm happy for you. The only thing that we might be able to do, because we have a legacy of doing it, is putting it on spacecraft like MSL, the Mars Science Laboratory, or other deep space spacecraft where we've historically already done this, and we don't really say, oh, hey, we have a nuclear reactor in the spacecraft. We just kind of push that to the side. Don't really
it's a
tell anyone.
radiothermal electric isotope generator.
There you go, right? Because people don't know what they're like.
It's not
a
nuclear battery.
Yeah, right. It's a battery.
No.
It's a battery.
It's a battery. It just happens to use pellets of plutonium-238. So
why couldn't NASA use the same sort of verbiage to make people not care as much and be fine with it and not even realize what it actually is? I find that this might actually be a thing because this is Congress. Congress, the same people who directed NASA to make the Space Launch System, are directing them to look into nuclear serious.
Yeah. You can look
that's
at.
What
You
makes
can
me
look
think it might happen.
You can look into it all you want. No. You can look into it. You can even kind of design one. I am of the opinion for worse. Unfortunately, I don't think. I wish I wasn't right. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm of the opinion nothing like that will launch in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Not until
Unfortunately.
the public opinion of nuclear sways another direction. It's totally different. Going, hey, there's a little pellet on this thing that's on a spacecraft that's going to be, way far away from you. You don't care. Versus this is the primary method of propulsion. Not going to be a thing.
Yeah, and just to kind of note, a lot of the accidents that have happened, a vast majority of nuclear accidents that have happened are lack of imagination from personnel as opposed to the actual nuclear system itself causing the problem. So it's not been particularly the actual system, it's been the people involved in the system that have caused a vast majority of the accidents.
So Siki does bring up an interesting point in the chat room, which is China might launch one. The world doesn't equal USA. Okay, that's fair. I would, we tend to focus a lot on the USA simply because about 50% of the non-military spending is from the United States, so it's really easy for us to do that. I don't even think China will do it. I think there's just a general human fear of this, and I'm not even on board with China doing it. I think that
electricity's bad. Technology evil. Thomas Edison was a witch.
You know what's funny? I think it's easier for them to launch a coal rocket than it would be for them, which would be absolutely horrible, right? I mean, just devastatingly bad for everyone involved. Also, just a bad design. Like, what a horrible thing that would be. It would be easier for them to launch that than a nuclear rocket. Anyhow, on that note, let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I went sideways.
No, it's fine. It was
Yeah.
a good track to go down.
All
so.
right, next up.
Next one comes off of Reddit. Oh, man.
Reeling it back.
Just trying. From Mrs. Meggs. Says, something nobody mentioned in the show is how New Space seems to be putting facilities in many different states. Blue Origin and SpaceX mostly operate out of Florida, Texas, and California, but those three states alone have over 25% of the seats in Congress. Perhaps the best approach to building a rocket is a bit of the old and the new way. Abandon cost plus, but front the new space companies money to build facilities and offices in various states around existing NASA facilities.
Actually, yeah.
I think the funniest thing about that is there's no need to say around NASA facilities.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have to be, yeah.
There's just there's none.
Well, although there's some existing congressional poll there.
Sure, but it's funny that it's sort of like, where's a NASA facility? Right there. Great. There's a down 7-Eleven. We're going to build an office right there. Like, where's...
Can I get that 70 acres right next to it?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, we'll be across the street then. It's somewhere between
No, just being in the same state, yeah, you're more likely to get something.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the reason that Blue Origin and SpaceX are putting their facilities where they are is because that's where the expertise is.
Yeah, yeah.
So, because I mean, California and Florida are not just like technological centers; they're aerospace hubs of the world.
Sure.
Like especially here in the Los Angeles area, as we talked about last week.
This is where you design and build them.
You can think of every single major aerospace company out there. They've got an office somewhere in Los Angeles that's working on designing, building, fabrication.
All those offices are like within a 30-mile range as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to LAX,
like 60 kilometers?
If you go down the 105 freeway, within like a 5-block radius, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, Orbital,
it's actually comical. It's like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. They're all right next to each other. You're right. It's like block after block.
We've
after
got
block
the
after
schools
block.
too here in LA. We've got Caltech in Texas. You've got A&M's amazing engineering division.
Yeah.
So we've got the people, the expertise, the education, and also kind of nice place to live as well. So kind of helps. So.
All right, moving up, and apparently I screwed up the slate on this. I forgot. This actually came from, so as Dutta pointed out, I messed this up because we create the graphics in it. Well, these graphics, like you see, are generated on the fly dynamically. But the one that is coming up on the screen now, that's actually from Doug Space, not from Mr. I screwed this slate up. So anyhow.
You blew it.
I blew it.
And I apologize if it was actually supposed to be Mr. Smeggs and not Mrs. Meggs, but you're going to deal.
So Doug Space.
So Doug Space, actually from Tomorrow.tv, says, basically the SLS debate boils down to one of cost versus capability. The Falcon Heavy is more cost-effective, but the SLS is more capable. So I say the Falcon Heavy for the most cost-effective development of the moon, where we don't need so much capability, and SLS for the journey to Mars, because we need that level of capability. But to afford both, we need lunar COTS, quote-unquote, for the moon and supplemental Falcon Heavy cargo launches in support of a program to Mars.
Coincidentally, NASA is already working on that. Some of the cargo flights that they want to send to their deep space gateway around the moon, they've already talked about contracting those out to the commercial industry. So that's already in the works, in a way.
I think we just need the senators to get on board with a new way of doing business. Like, everyone's so used to, this is what NASA... we look at NASA fondly from the Apollo era because that was, in my opinion, NASA at their best, right? That was that was NASA doing things that humans have never done before, and we want to recreate that, but we don't know how, like, doing things you've never done before is hard to recreate because you've already done it.
Yeah.
So you just kind of go back and did what you did before, but that's not what you need anymore because you're not doing something no one's ever done before, if that makes any sense. So what we need is a mission, in my humble opinion, what we need is a mission, and we need Congress to go, look, go to Mars, you have 10 years, go. And figure it out. And I think that would be, I don't think NASA would do it the same way that they did it in the Apollo era. I think they would look to other companies to design the rocket. Like NASA looked to, was it Grumman who built the lunar lander? Who built the
Grumman.
Grumman built the lunar lander. They turned to Grumman and they said, design and build a lunar lander. NASA didn't really design the lunar lander. They went to Grumman and said,
I mean, that's what they did with everything, frankly.
I believe the Saturn V was designed by von Braun. Right. So.
Oh, but they just—I see what you're saying. But they just contracted out.
But they contracted it out.
Grumman,
yeah, the lunar lander, on the other hand, as far as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So Saturn V designed by NASA.
Werner von Braun and his team.
But then built by other companies.
Yeah.
The lander, the lander, I believe, was designed and built by Grumman. So they basically said, figure this out, ready to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's...
the Apollo capsule itself was designed by Boeing, and just with modifications for requests that NASA had. So there's another piece that was designed by a different company and built by a different company.
Yeah, North American Aviation back then, but Boeing nowadays.
True.
So,
yeah,
sure.
That's true.
we'll take that.
So I think going to a kind of that, getting rid of cost plus, and saying, look, here's your budget, figure it out, and if you can't do it, and we saw great success with this in the COTS program.
Yeah.
I think we'll.
Fix
I think
price,
that's
baby.
the new version of NASA is something like that, in my opinion. And I think NASA's ready to do this. NASA's on board. It's Congress that's not.
Fixed price is the new black.
Did you have some? Were you? Oh no. All right. Finally, one last one.
Okay. I feel like I talk enough. Last one off of Reddit from Brandon Mark.
Paragraphs.
The overt rationale in using shuttle hardware for SLS was that it would be cheaper and faster. The last 7 years have proven both notions completely false. Costs keep increasing beyond expectations, and milestones keep delaying beyond expectations. In the same time frame, in the 1960s, we went from minimal capability to boots on the moon. This time we gave ourselves an easier goal: modify existing hardware in order to go near the moon. Even with that easier goal, we're falling short.
I don't think it's fair. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, during the 1960s, we had a very big motivator behind that, and it was called the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So, and it was simply, we're going to beat you to the moon because we have superior technology. So.
You could waste anything but time.
Exactly.
Right? Which meant that if you needed to burn money in order to get to the moon, set it on fire.
And guess what they did?
They set it on fire.
They sure burned a huge mountain of cash. So
we don't live in that climate anymore, right? That is not a thing that we can't just tell NASA, go set this money on fire. Go ahead, Mike.
Maybe that philosophy is setting money on fire has still existed all this time.
You know, and I think that's part of we're moving away from that. And so we're being smarter about it, which means that now you can waste anything but money, which means you can take longer to make things happen. And maybe that's not bad, but it would be nice if we found kind of a middle ground, I think.
Yeah.
And anyhow, there you go. That's our show this week. Next week, we've got the CEO of Offworld, Jim Caravala, coming on, which that's going to be pretty freaking awesome. So I'm excited for that. We also have our ground support patrons who have helped make this specific segment of this episode happen. These people have contributed between $1 and $2.49, and they're going to get access to After Dark. So thank you to all of our ground support patrons for making this show happen. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us this week. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you leave some great comments. Remember, debate the idea, not the person. The idea, not the person. No personal attacks. Ideas only. You guys do great at that, but just a quick reminder. For those of you watching live, After Dark is up next. For everyone else, it'll be available in about 4 weeks. See you in a bit. killed Jared. That was a long show. That's going to be a 90-minute show.
Hey, does anybody remember like 2 hours ago when Jared said he had way too much caffeine?
Yeah. He burned through it. All that energy's been burned through. Crashing. That was really great. I do want to. I was going to say we need to do an open. We don't have to do that anymore. This show, we've been working. No, yeah, we don't do that no more. We've been working towards making a more cohesive show, and other than we kind of had to do a reset in between segments 1 and 2. I think we're getting pretty good. I'm trying to make sure that the live show is still fun for you guys watching live, and we don't take out the things that you enjoy, because, like, us failing is kind of fun to watch. No, it is, right? You like seeing the pre-show. I know you do, right? Because I would. I like seeing the pre-show. You like watching the in-between segment stuff. But I'm also trying to make it a little bit more cohesive, so what you see on demand is closer to the live experience as well, without taking away the magic of watching live. So that's a really hard balancing act, to be blunt. So I did want to talk about. Go ahead.
Real quick, Ben. I did throw that Doug Space corrected slate up after dark, so you can take that and put it on screen instead of the.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. We'll leave it at because we mentioned it and we said that the name was wrong, so we'll let it go as it aired. I don't mind airing mistakes. It shows that we're human. We're not afraid of mistakes as long as we're accountable to them, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what the show is doing right and what the show is doing wrong. From a social media standpoint, what you guys are enjoying, what you don't enjoy, what we can do better. Because we are always tweaking and tuning the show and trying to make it a little bit better. So I just wanted to get your feedback on things you do and don't like. There's been some. I also want to focus a little bit on social media because I suck at it so badly. And Space Kyle has been doing a magical job on Facebook. I don't know if anyone's been watching our
and then
Facebook
Stoge page. Throughout the show.
Oh, and she'll tweet. Oh my God! Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you, Stoge.
That's incredible. I love that. Yeah, but Green Jim, less tweaking and tuning. No. There is nothing wrong with tweaking and tuning the show, and always looking to make it better. We will always look to make the show better, and sometimes we will make it worse on accident. And as long as we undo the things that we made worse, hey, it happens. Look, as long as we realize, look, we made something worse. Let's undo that.
A mistake is fine. A repeated mistake is not fine.
Right, that's correct. You'll learn from our mistakes. But if we don't continue to do that, then what we're going to do is we're going to get comfortable with how we're doing things, and then it's going to become boring. Right? It's not going to be interesting and new and neat. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be complacent, and that's not a show you want. You don't want to watch a complacent show. You want to have fun. You want to watch us try to do new things and totally fail at them. Right?
That's the joy of watching live.
That's the joy of watching live. Yeah.
I like Smasher says less tweaking, more twerking.
I don't think you want to see me twerk.
No.
I don't think.
I just tried and my back.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Oh man.
So I did want to talk a little bit about that. So one of the things I had been considering, but I don't think I'm going to do, and I'll tell you why, is on the bottom of the screen I was going to put a timeline that had little markers that lined up with the YouTube timeline.
Gee, what's that sound like?
Well, a little bit different than the launch providers today.
Wow.
A little bit different than the launch providers today. Allow me to remind everyone that Space Vidcast did all of that stuff a decade before,
ago.
Well, not a decade, half a decade before anyone else did. Yeah. So we were ahead of the curve on that by not a small margin.
No.
Anyhow, a timeline on the bottom that would line up with the YouTube timeline, and so you'd have like a little hash where the interview starts. You'll have a hash where comments start, and then each news item would have kind of their own hash. You could just jump to the things that you're interested in, because I don't expect you to watch a full 90-minute show. I mean, some people will. Some people want to see the whole show top to bottom. Some people only care about the news, and that's fine. Some people only care about the interview because they already learned all the news from blogs and whatnot. That's fine too. Right. And hopefully everyone cares about the comments, because I think that those are fun conversations, but some people don't. That's all fine. You should consume the show however you want to consume the show. I just want to make it easier for you to do that. So I started mocking up some graphics, and you will attest to this. That idea sounds great on paper.
Yeah.
It does not work. It just does not work in practice. I tried. I did really try. I tried. And I can't I just can't make it close. I can't make it look stupid. It looks, nah.
My beta's going double.
Oh, nice.
So that's neat.
That's cool.
Anyhow, what I might do instead, though, is on YouTube, if I think of it, what I might do is just put the time. So, like, we already list, like, in Space News, and then I'll have the time that Space News starts, and then each one of the Space News segments, and then a dash and, like, the time. And then if you're watching on YouTube, you can just click on that time, it will jump to that time. So I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah, I think so.
Citizen 3617 asks, where did you get that shirt? It looks really cool.
Oh, this is, it's a Woot shirt, actually, shirt.woot.com, and they have opened up their entire back catalog. So shirt.woot.com presents a new shirt design every single day, which is really great if you're into that sort of thing. So I like to check every single day, and when I find one that I like, I buy it then, or at least before the 24 hours are up, because it's usually a little bit cheaper, $10 to $12. If you buy them after the fact, they're usually a little bit more expensive, 15 to 18, give or take. But you can still get it, which is great. So that's my shirt. And I make coffee, and I like space, so I bought the shirt. It was great, because there was a Mini Stoge shirt one day, and then the very next day there was a Jared shirt, and then the very next day was a me shirt. Like, we all bought shirts that week.
I didn't get any shirt.
Nope, no shirts for you.
I am wearing my beautiful pink shirt.
None of them
First,
were
I thought you
pink.
were saying there was a shirt of Mini Stoge, and then
That
a
would be
shirt
amazing!
of Jared. I was like, what?
That would be amazing.
That's awesome.
No.
Now I have an idea.
Oh, Jared should wear the Mini Stoge shirt.
Sure.
Team Stoge.
Yeah.
Team Jared.
Yep.
So on Twitch,
Mike.
Rebel Ace Friesland
Friesland.
says, question, although it's not really a question, it's more of
Yep.
a statement. So it should be S:, I think.
Cool.
I think you should make the show also into 3 sections as well, that viewers only like a short show or one part of the show. So break it into 3 segments. Let us not forget, we did that. That was part of the show experiment. The show was experimenting.
But the thing is that on YouTube, when you say, hey, there was an interesting thing here, and then it's embedded in the time, you just click on it. It literally goes just to that part. It's like, you don't have to really worry about it going.
Generally, people didn't end up liking that, and there was so much confusion of, well, where's the rest of the show? And it just didn't work. We tried it for a while, actually, just like, okay, well, people are confused, but they'll get used to it. Never got used to it.
No.
The other problem is that then YouTube doesn't really know what to feature. And so we actually got radically fewer viewers when we did that, as opposed to just one long cohesive show. So we stopped doing that, I want to say about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, because we used to break off, you'd be like interview segment or whatever, and yeah, we don't do that anymore. So we did try that, but we still want to give you that ability, right? I understand the desire to jump to the segment that you want to jump to. I get that. So I'm trying to give you that capability without breaking the show into parts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Silence. There you go. Hey, Mike, did we ever name the cat?
We lost Mike.
We lost Mike. All right, we'll never know now. Oh, poor Mike.
So Neuropilot says some YouTubers have snippets on a second channel. Thought about that, but we don't want to do that either, because then again you break up the number of subscribers and you break up your views into now separate channels, and so you have less authority on your one channel than you would have otherwise. If we were much larger, if we had 10+ million views or even 1 million views on each one of these videos, that might make sense, because then our authority doesn't make. We're going to have authority in the video no matter what.
Right.
But with only 3,000 to 5,000 or 10,000 views, we need as much authority as we can get on each one of these videos. So we need as many views. Like, look, subscribing to our YouTube channel and watching the videos on YouTube helps us a lot. Helps us a great deal.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do that. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And it really, really helps the show, because then YouTube, the algorithms look at us, go, oh, they're more important. People are interested in them. We should present them to other people. And then we get in front of other people and, eventually profit. Collect underpants, profit.
Right. I got
Exactly.
it. I got it. Mike, are you back?
Yes.
I am. Sorry.
Mike,
about
cat
that.
named Meow.
No, just want to make sure. We were wondering if we've named the cat.
Not really. I didn't even know there was a thing until getting in the rundown. I'm just like, oh, I didn't even know you guys tweeted
Is that
this.
what you have in preview? Is that what? Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah, yeah.
I can't read that from here.
No, you can't. But
everyone set their video to 4K
Right.
and make that full
Ready to
screen
go.
because otherwise you're not going to be able to see it.
we've got Wayward Cat, Orion, Schrodinger, Nyan, Aristocat,
That's clever. Yeah.
Neko
Or
Space,
Astrocats.
Nico Space, Astrocat, Felix. There's Darth Kitty, of course.
Darth Kitty's pretty
That
good.
picture is like a version of Cat Dog, which was kind of amazing. There's the hashtag
Oh my God, Lars.
Firstronaut, and then there's also hashtag Claustronaut. Naming him Stitch after Lilo and Stitch because he's from space. And my personal favorite from Zingaroo, Scrub.
That's a good one. But my new personal favorite, that was my favorite up until just now.
Yeah.
My new personal favorite comes from Lars von Braun in the chat room. Catcom.
Catcom.
That's good. That's a good one.
Catcom. That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's great. That's great. Oh my God, I'm so easy, but I love it. I'm turning as pink as this shirt.
Yes,
it's
you
great.
are.
Oh,
Oh, man. Anyway.
Catcom.
Wow.
We need a cat.
No.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
We need a cat that we
Nope.
can name Catcom and bring
Nope.
him on or him or her on the show.
Nope.
Have a little cat running around, meow, pooping on everything, scratching us.
And no.
Well, yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, no. No, Stoge, no, 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 Stoge. No.
We're fine with just the one. There can only be one
We have one
tomorrow
resident
kitty at a time.
cat of tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I think, yeah, yep, Catcom, the cat of tomorrow. That's pretty good. And then Mini Stoge, please,
No.
please.
Nope.
Yeah, Marty the
Come on,
Martian,
Mom and Dad,
Catcom
what's
is
the problem?
cool. Tarantula says Catcom got my vote from last week too. I guess I missed it last week. Yep.
You guys are terrible. It's funny though.
I like Catcom. Catcom's amazing. All right, so those are some of my show things. What about social? So I like what Lisa's doing with cutting this show up. Like she's live tweeting the show. I think on the Tomorrow account, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I love that. I think that's great. Do you guys like that? Does that help you at all? And then
And I like too how Lisa, how you've been taking quotes from the show and putting them up there. Kind of like how Jeff Faust takes the quotes from the different conferences that he's at. So I don't know. That's a really cool thing.
you know,
It's
there's
very
a,
Faustian of you.
You know, there's
Very
a tool, very Fausty. There's a tool we can get that allows us to. You basically live stream the show into this tool, and then when we say something clever, which was basically all of you, or something stupid from me, you can in there you can actually.
You said nothing. All you did was move from one person to another.
I know, whatever. You can basically move from. You can basically create a video snippet of that. And so, you know, she's saying the quote, but she could actually go in and say, "Oh, this was said on the show," and we'll actually create a little video that gets then automatically posted to the Twitters, like basically in real time. So, is that of interest to anyone? What are we looking at? Dud, I can't
Does
read
Jeff
that from
Faust know about that?
Our roundtable discussions are held around a semicircular table because the other half of the conversation is you.
you. Aww.
Oh, it hits me right here. Right here in the
I think my favorite. Well, never mind.
I mean, it's cheesy,
That was
but
pretty good.
kind of true.
That was pretty good.
It is true.
I don't know,
That's total. But it is. You guys are in the conversation. That's why we keep talking to you. Otherwise, I'm just staring at a camera in an basically empty room, and that's almost worthless. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't even have a third section of our show, for crying out loud. I mean, I wouldn't have anyone to tell me like how terrible I am.
So the show is live so that we can interact with you. Otherwise, there's no reason for us to go to the trouble of doing the show live. What we would do
No.
instead is record it, have what's known as ISO media, so each camera would have its own recording as well. And then when we screw up in the middle of the show and start randomly punching cameras on the screen, don't think I didn't notice that.
Oh, man.
We would edit all of the mistakes out and just give you a comprehensive show. We'd probably even edit some of the rambling out too, right? We'd just make it a
I'm
tighter,
sure.
shorter show. Yeah, it'd be.
Yeah, but the rambling's the best part.
Yeah.
Right?
But no, I think the interactivity is the best part.
Yes.
Having them be able to say, you know,
Yes.
interactive TV is cool. Right? I mean,
I like Shaky saying that tomorrow's better half
Is
that side of it. Is that side of the camera. It's tomorrow's better half.
yeah.
We're one side. Y'all are the other.
Lur asks, when will tomorrow make a bloopers reel?
You mean like every week?
Yeah, I was gonna say every single week we make a bloopers reel.
Lur, you are here live, right?
Yeah.
You do watch the show.
Are you watching right now?
So Mini Stoge says, I need to keep the chat logs and quote you guys in IAC. Actually, fun little factoid. Colton keeps, and I believe since, and Colton, do correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you have every chat from the room since season 1, episode 1? Question mark?
Question mark on that.
I know you've got them for a long, long time.
Really long
but
time.
At least I think you have them for a really long time, but...
He knows what you said.
He does.
Pretty much.
He says, just the chat...
Just chat, no transcript.
just chat, right. Yeah, he has
Sure.
decades worth of...
But I mean, that's
But
half
all the way,
the
how far
battle.
back do they go? And then someone said, who said it? Psychic said, bring back After Dark drinks with an X and then 2 bangs, not 3, not 1, but 2 bangs at the end.
Yep.
We will. That will be a thing.
Yeah, because Tarantula says when Soma Bar launching.
Soma Bar, right. So, because I'm too lazy to like bring alcohol to the studio, it all kind of died. So, understand, After Dark drinking kind of came out of necessity when we were at our old place, right?
yeah.
Because we were in, were you at our old place?
Yes, I was.
He was.
It was so small. It was so small that like the camera, like this camera shot, like the one you see right now, if we had zoomed out even a fraction of an inch, we would be offset. We couldn't do
you actually wouldn't have been able to be that far.
Oh yeah,
over
we'd have
anyway.
to. First off, we'd have to be much closer to each other.
Everyone
Yeah.
was like here.
Right.
It was we
were on
didn't
top of
like
each other.
we didn't need a heater in winter. We kind of self-heated each other.
Yep.
So
We couldn't do the cross shots because there was no. You would just shoot right off the set.
Yeah.
So that's part of where Station 204 came from. But then out of necessity, because we didn't want to just sit there for another 30 to 60 minutes, like crammed next to each other, we're like, let's just go to the kitchen. So it was, since we're already in the kitchen, there was already alcohol there. We're like, let's just have a drink. Because, I mean, yeah.
might as well, because
well.
we're loosening up. We're
Exactly.
winding down.
Bro Opti. Yes, we always need optics. Optics. We always need graphics. I mean,
yeah.
The more graphics we can do, that's what I think sets us apart. Well, tries to set us apart is awesome graphics. So, anyhow, tomorrow drinks will come back. There's going to be a Soma Bar. It's going to be a little automated bar bot. So instead of having like a full kitchen of booze, it'll be able to hit buttons and make what you want. We'll totally bring it back for After Dark. It's going to be a lot of fun. Someday, eventually, I hope that you guys can actually choose what drinks we're going to have, which will be an interesting thing, right? So we'll have like or maybe a voting system, or maybe we make that a reward for Escape Velocity patrons or something like that. Oh yeah, it's going to be a thing. She's looking at me. This is not the first time I've said this on air before.
And I always give you this look.
Actually, how did Stoja know that was my drink?
This is what I do with.
I can drink again too.
Apparently.
Yeah,
It's a
stupid.
little creepy. But I don't drink that much in front of her.
In front of her.
I guess.
I don't drink that much in front of the kids.
I want one too.
Yeah, no kidding, Mike, right? That's exactly how that sounded. Jeez.
I'm not an alcoholic in front of the children.
All right, so Tars, you're saying that you've
Thank
got...
you, Seki. Thank you. How many times do we have to go over that one?
So the internet's not working.
That's fun.
My internet's working just fine. Thank you.
For this 2-syllable name. Psychic.
No! I'm not. I will not have magical thinking on this show. Do you understand me? There will be no mystical crystals. This is not a thing.
Just rub some crystals on yourself. You'll be fine.
I need you to acknowledge this on camera.
always thought
I acknowledge what you have just said.
I need you to agree to this
I may or may not agree.
on camera.
I don't know.
Yeah.
A little voodoo magic might be fun.
No.
Oh. I agree.
Thank you.
Mission doesn't move forward without Capcom's approval.
That's right.
That's old school thinking, Mike.
Hey, I'll sleep in. This is fine.
This is future space. This isn't even new space. This is future space.
This is the golden age.
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
That's how you get stuff done, by the way.
That's why I'm sitting over here quiet.
That's not what I wanted. Hang on. There we go. Mom and Dad are fighting again. The astrologers conference.
No, please no. God.
Ooh, the
why?
Escape Velocity patrons say we need a magic crystals. I gotta give the patrons what they want.
No, you don't.
No.
We need pictures of all of our auras.
The patrons want us to do green screen.
Oh God, that's true.
So no, because we
No,
don't always
space.
give the patrons what they want.
Haha.
What's happening on the September 28th show?
I hate all of you right now, by the way. Just FYI.
September 28th, I will not be in the United States.
Oh.
So, but Jared will, Carrie Ann will, and Mike will. So the show will go on. It will just go on without me. And no, if last year is any indication, I will
What do
have.
you mean September 28th? September 28th is a Thursday.
It's a Friday. Oh yeah.
September 28th is a Thursday in the United States of America. We do this show for the United States of America.
All right. Regardless.
Our show is going to be September 30th.
Right. Well, the September 30th show, I still will not be here.
I'm aware of that.
So, yep. Yeah, mini starts is September 30th. Right. Regardless, I won't be here, so the show will go on with Mike, Carrie Ann, and Jared.
As it does
Every
when
time.
Ben has to work.
And that, if last year is any indication, I will not have time to call in or do anything other than that.
Also, it'll
Dance
be
on
at,
stage?
like, 4 a.m.
Oh my God, you saw the footage of me dancing on stage?
I saved it. Are you kidding?
No.
Do you have it?
No.
Do you have it?
Are you? Is it allowed?
Are you thinking this one all the way
Escape
through?
Velocity patrons.
There's nothing in there. I know what this clip is. There's nothing in there that we can't show.
Are you sure?
Yeah, there's nothing
Are
in
you
there.
100% positive?
Everything that we had there is already public.
Hey, come here for a minute.
That whole presentation is done. And I don't even think the presentation was up at that point. All right, they're saying no. They're being too restrictive.
We're just thinking of ITAR.
Yeah, well, that's true. ITAR, yeah. It is my sad face.
If you make me feel like the bad parent one more time,
It's not a restricted clip. There's
All right.
nothing restricted in this clip. There's
go ahead.
There's no. I don't even know that he has it.
All right. Let's...
Oh, he's looking.
I'm sure he
he's
is.
looking.
I'm sure he is.
I think I've even seen that video.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Donna has it.
Seki, daylight saving in the United States doesn't kick in until like October, November.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with him being in Australia right around that time, it shouldn't really affect that.
And I live in Arizona. Daylight savings doesn't kick in at all.
You guys don't believe in it.
Obviously, because it's
That's
not daylight
because-
savings
my
at all.
state does right.
It's daylight saving, and you're right because Arizona's smart and daylight saving is stupid.
Yes,
And I
it
feel
is.
like everyone knows it's stupid, and we keep saying, "Oh, well, we'll tweak it because it'll help conserve energy," and we know it doesn't. We have considerable proof that it does nothing. So why we keep it is beyond me. Other than we don't like change.
Do you guys know how daylight savings got started?
Saving, yeah, it was World War I believe.
I thought it was World War II, but it could have been either of those. But even the reason why they were doing that, though,
it was for
they were literally turning off all of the lights at night and were giving themselves that extra hour of work time or whatever, so that they would have a complete blackout, so that they wouldn't get hit by air raids.
Gotcha.
And I say this is mainly in Europe. Like it got started in Britain, I believe, right?
I thought Germany
And it all had to do with air raids.
Yeah, it might have been World War II. It was one of the World Wars.
Whichever one.
So the whole reason
The
for
upcoming.
doing daylight savings, like,
Saving.
stopped after World War II. So
I don't think it's.
Well, it saves energy. We got to come up with a reason for it. Some reason. I don't know. So yeah, when it came through for Arizona, we're just like, yeah, we're not going to do this at all. Never adopted it. We've never done daylight savings.
So Rebel Ace Frizzlin says there are ways to try some free Google, YouTube, Facebook ads. Try that. That's not a bad idea. Just do some ads out there. I don't feel like they ever do anything. We actually had ads on YouTube and Facebook for quite a while.
I do have it, but it's an MOV file.
Oh yeah,
Neuropilot, I thought it was too. So there's that.
You okay, Kitty?
No, she's dying right now.
Actually, Neuropilot says
It's
daylight
funny.
saving. I thought it was for the farmers. That's actually a very common misconception. I don't know where that started. Actually, the farmers do not want it. They're like, no, this is stupid.
I don't.
Nope, it has nothing to do with farmers. Here's
I don't think farmers really care because they get up with the sun, they work with the sun, they go to
Whenever
sleep.
They
with
do
the
not care
sun.
what time the clock says. Doesn't matter. Yep.
If there's work to be done, work will be done.
You got it. Yep. Not for the farmers. Yeah. Yep.
I like Sergei Malot's quote here. Quote, when the spiritual teacher and his disciples began their evening meditation, the cat who lived in the monastery made such noise that it distracted them. So the teacher ordered that the cat be tied up during the evening practice. Years later, when the teacher died, the cat continued to be tied up during the meditation session. And when the cat eventually died, another cat was brought to the monastery and tied up. Centuries later, learned descendants of the spiritual teacher wrote scholarly treatises about the religious significance of tying up a cat for meditation.
This is the problem of not thinking about why something is done. This is exactly the issue of doing things the way they've always been done because that's the way we've always done them.
That is why this show
does anybody understand?
That is why this show does not do that, and that's why we're always poking at it, and we will always poke at it. I'm just ingraining that into our culture. So love it or hate it, that's what we do.
Guys, can I just say something? I'm really proud of us that we didn't have a planetary semantic discussion today. That's just good job, everyone.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right, I think we're winding down.
I can't get the internet to work on my laptop.
That's because, Jared, we need to talk to you after the show about your future employment. I'm just kidding. All right, I think that's after dark. I think we're winding down. Space Mike, if you wouldn't mind hanging on, I wanted to talk to you, Jared, and Mike. All good things.
You want to talk about Mike to Mike?
I don't know. I just have some questions for you guys that should not be
you,
broadcast.
Jared, and Mike.
Oh yeah,
You said
and
Mike Space.
I understand.
Okay.
I just have some stuff that shouldn't be broadcast. So, awesome. All good things. So awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great one.